Hello from Bridgetown. England and Australia preparing to renew rivalries once more. 1 year on from the Ashes, 14 years on from the final in this very ground where England triumphed to lift their first T20 title. The two face each other in a game that could be so pivotal in deciding the outcome of this group. Tuesday's washout against Scotland increases the pressure just a little bit on England to get a result today. Defeat would leaving them needing to win big against Oman and Namibia in their remaining matches. As for Australia, a far from perfect performance against Oman saw a win, but they're still really looking to hit their stride in the tournament. Henry Moran here for this huge clash, and alongside me in just a moment, Stephen Finn, former England fast bowler, and the Australian journalist and broadcaster Geoff Lemon. But the all-important toss out there in the middle. Let's join Michael Atherton with the two captains.
Mitch Marsh, Joss Butler, match referee Andy Pycroft. You've got the coin, Mitch.
Heads.
Oh, no.
Heads is the call.
That was a horrible toss.
It's a shocking toss, but Joss, you've won it. What are you going to do and why?
We're going to bowl first today. Obviously a short boundary at the wind. We're a little bit unsure as to how the wicket will play, so we want to bowl first.
And how excited are you for this contest?
Yeah, I've just said to the group, these are real special days. Getting to play against Australia in a World Cup in Barbados. These are the days you play for, and we expect a great game.
Just the 10 overs in that frustrating match, the washout against Scotland. Was there anything that gave you pause for thought in those 10 overs?
Yeah, a little bit. I think there's a couple of little areas we can sort of scratch up on. I think especially in the field, we pride ourselves on that intensity. So those are little areas. But yeah, we're really excited for today. We've trained well, prepared well, and now it's about playing well.
And you have a particularly good record against Australia in this format recently. Has that given you confidence ahead of this game?
Yeah, we've played well against Australia in the recent past, but they're a top team, and one-off games in World Cups, I don't think form counts for too much. So it's going to be a great game, two really good sides, and we're looking forward to it.
You're unchanged, I think. How close did Reece Topley come into consideration?
Yeah, not just Reece, but the whole squad. We've got a really good squad of guys, and we've got lots of different options, but we've gone with the same team today.
Okay, go well. Mitch, what would you have done?
Well, if that's the toss is anything to come by, we're in trouble today. We were going to bowl first, I think, just to get a read on the conditions, but hopefully we can post a good total.
The chance to hold all three ICC titles simultaneously, how much is that driving you and your team on?
Yeah, it's a big carrot for every team that's here. Everyone's come here to win this tournament. We start today, we're going to get past England, and it's going to be a great game.
How's the captaincy treating? You don't look like the type to get too stressed about things.
I know, I'm human, I get stressed, don't worry about that. But it's a great team. We've got a lot of experienced players that I'll lean on throughout this tournament, and a great coaching staff, but it's been great.
I mentioned that Australia don't have a great record against England in T20 in recent times. Have you dwelt on the reasons for that in the build-up to this game or not?
No, we haven't. I think we've got a game here today that presents a good challenge for us. It's a World Cup game. In these tournament play, it's all about being present, winning today, hopefully, and moving forward.
Any changes from the team that played Oman?
Yeah, one change. Paddy comes in for Nathan Ellis.
Thanks for your time. Go well today.
Cheers, mate. Thank you.
So the two captains out in the middle with Michael Atherton. England winning the toss, electing to have a bowl. First, we wondered what they might do with their team, Stephen Finn. We expected Reece Topley would be into the side, perhaps in place of Mark Wood or Chris Jordan. But England going with the same 11 that took on Scotland in that rain-affected game. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, it just means that I know nothing of what I'm talking about, because in the build-up to the game I was saying I felt as though Reece Topley would have to play. So with that left-arm swing that's been so potent in the power play, especially here at Bridgetown in Barbados, and then I thought, especially given the surface that I went down there and looked at an hour or so ago, I thought the captain winning the toss would want to bat first, get runs on the board, and let the wicket, with the cracks that are running down the middle of it and the dryness and a little bit tacky on top of the surface. I felt as though that might lead to it becoming more hard to score as the game went on, but both captains wanted to win the toss and bowl first, so it's going to be fascinating to see how this plays out.
Geoff Lemon, we know this game has a little bit of extra significance after England's washout against Scotland. Talk us through exactly why.
Okay, so Scotland at the moment, they've got 1 point from the washout. They've got a couple of games coming up. They've won the game against Namibia, so they've got 3 points now from that. They're head of the group at the moment. They've got one more game against Oman and then the game against Australia. If they win the Oman game, they go to 5 points. If England lose here, the best they could do is get to 5 points. And if they get to 5 points, it comes down to who's got the better net run rate. and it comes down potentially to an Australia-Scotland game where Australia might even win it in a way that doesn't damage Scotland's net run rate that much.
Okay, so we're in a position where England's next fixtures after this one being against Oman and Namibia on Thursday and Saturday. But if Scotland win tomorrow in Antigua against Oman, they'll be on 5 points. The easy way around it for England is beat Australia without having to worry about any of this. And that is what they'll be looking to do first and foremost. They've actually won 6 of the last 7, England, against Australia in completed T20 internationals, and they return to a ground where 14 years ago they lifted their first ICC trophy, beating Australia in that final. A final where the player of the match was Craig Keyswetter. A lot has changed in English and world cricket since then, but the rivalry between England and Australia remains as strong as ever. So this Australia side, containing plenty of names that we're very familiar with, David Warner and Travis Head at the top, Mitchell Marsh the captain, then it's Glenn Maxwell, who's had a horrible run of form of late. Marcus Stoinis played brilliantly the other night, match-winning innings in that game against Oman. Tim David, Matthew Wade, the wicket-keeper. Pat Cummins comes into the side in place of Nathan Ellis for his first game ever in the West Indies. He's never played in the West Indies before, so there you go, there's a little stat for you. Mitchell Starc, Adam Zampa and Josh Hazlewood. England line up unchanged with Phil Salt and Joss Buttler. Then it's Will Jacks, Johnny Bairstow, Harry Brook, Moeen Ali, Liam Livingstone, Chris Jordan, Jofra Archer, Adil Rashid and Mark Wood. Stephen Finn, as the players prepare to come out for the anthems, the flags being unfurled in front of this big crowd at the Kensington Oval. It is 2 lineups, very familiar names, familiar rivalries. It feels a huge event, arguably the first blockbuster fixture of the tournament.
Yeah, it kind of feels that way, doesn't it? And I think the jeopardy for England there adds an added bit of spice to the contest as well. This is the most populated that we've seen the ground here. As we've been wandering around Barbados for the last couple of days, you felt more and more English fans making their way over to the island in order to watch, in particular, this game. And it's just going to be fascinating to see what the surface is going to do. The pitches haven't been beautiful batting surfaces here so far in this World Cup. England opting to bowl first, hoping to restrict Australia to something that then the power of their batting lineup can chase down. But again, I think there's going to be a lot of caveats throughout this game that will provide entertainment.
Could be the final time that David Warner faces England as well. His long and storied international career coming to an end, and he is next in line behind the captain Mitchell Marsh as the two teams wander out towards us. England in the red of their T20 uniform, Australia in the rather fetching bottle green with the yellow trim. Under not entirely cloudless skies, but there isn't the threat of rain. Lots of blue sky overhead. It is really warmer for 30 degrees, humid as well as you might expect. And those in the crowd, well, I hope they're hydrated. Plenty of water. I can certainly expect there'll be plenty of that rum punch over in the beach area of this ground over to our right, the party stand. It's going to be some atmosphere. It's going to be some game of cricket. We don't know how it'll play out. This World Cup's taught us anything. Expect the unexpected. 2 teams out there, and it's time now for the national anthems of both Australia and England. Was roared out by many of the England team, and those in the stands as well.
Australians, all let us rejoice, for we are one and free, with golden
Advance Australia fair, and now the flags will be folded up. The players will head back towards the boundary edge, and there's plenty of Australia fans in this ground as well that enjoyed that. The yellow of the Australian supporters. You can normally spot them around a cricket ground. There's a fair few of them here today. And Stephen Finn has already had his fun with an Australia fan who asked him to sign his shirt earlier on today. Finney signed it with 6 for 79. Stephen Finn, your figures when England beat Australia in the Ashes at Edgbaston in 2015.
Yeah, I felt it was pertinent. I was egged on by Jeff Lemon, I think it was, saying put your figures on there. So, yeah, I felt as though it was pertinent to put that on the sleeve, just as a little reminder that we've got a rich Ashes history in England. But it's going to be fascinating to watch this game today. It's going to be an opportunity for someone to write their name into the folklore of England versus Australia. And in England, the jeopardy that they face now throughout the rest of this group phase because of that washout against Scotland makes this game extra important.
So Garfield Sobers is here in the ground overlooking what is a spectacular scene, I have to say. The beach over to our right with the jet skis on it. There's swimming pools out there as well. The huge temporary stand, which is around about half full. This is going to be the venue for the final on June 29th as well. And as England head to the middle, having won the toss, electing to bowl first. We're not far away from the start of play. And now here's a little stat to leave you with as Stephen and Jeff prepare to begin commentary here on 5 Sports Extra and across BBC Sounds. Australia have won their last 4 T20s, having lost the toss on each occasion. And in 8 of their last 9, the team that has lost the toss has gone on to win the game. We said the toss would be important. Perhaps it will be, just in the other direction. Right then, Jeff, over to you, and Finney for the opening stages.
Thank you, Henry. Just about to get underway here. The team's taking their positions. England out there drifting around, figuring out who's fielding where. Looks like Moeen Ali will open the bowling. Interesting move here from England. Get the off-spinner involved. See if he can find something, find a bit of purchase in this surface. It's been all about purchase in the surface. South Africa at the moment, 22 for 4 in the 8th over of their run chase, trying to get 104 against the Dutch. So run scoring has not been easy for anybody through this tournament, aside maybe from Aaron Jones of the USA, who's belted the ball around in a couple of innings. Marcus Stoinis found a way against Oman the other night. England haven't had a chance to have a hit yet. They bowled 10 overs against Scotland, and that's been their only contribution to the tournament so far, with the rain coming in. So Mark Wood out there. He's not going to bowl first. He's not limbering up either. Popping a slip in place for Moeen Ali. We've got a pair of left-handers for Australia, David Warner and Travis Head. Warner at 37 years old, so experienced. Travis Head, after a scintillating IPL, smashed the ball to all parts until the last couple of games, where suddenly that ability deserted him against left-arm swing. So I do wonder about that. Didn't pick Reece Topley, and Travis Head has been all at sea against left-armers swinging the ball at him early in T20 innings. But it will be off-spin that he'll face here, with Moeen Ali looking to turn the ball away from the edge of the left-hander's bat. Still waiting for the go-ahead from the umpires, probably television-related, one can only assume. Now one of the umpires is trying to move a gentleman in a very bright yellow security vest, and also to get him to get some people in the crowd to sit down as well.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
You can hear the countdown. Reaches 0, and we are ready to play. Chris Jordan at slip. Joss Buttler behind the stumps, captaining this side, and Moeen Ali will bowl around the wicket and an off break that Travis Head pushes to cover point, and that's an uneventful start to the innings. There goes the trumpet of Jerusalem, as per usual, and Travis Head opens up the face of the bat and slams it out to deep extra cover. They've got a fielder out there, but Warner will get back for a second run, calling Travis Head through, urging him through, saying there's always 2 there. Warner loves a 2 in T20 cricket. That's his trademark, I think, more than the buccaneering shots of his early career. is the hard run double that he really brought into his game through the second half of his career. So Australia 2 with that loss. Those runs to Travis Head, who's pushing the next ball back to Moeen Ali, and there's no run.
Yeah, nice start by Moeen Ali, keeping the line tight. Travis Head throws his hands at anything outside the off stump. Moeen bowling around the wicket, trying to hit the stumps.
Does exactly that again. Backing away, Head gets a ball that lifts on him, and he pulls his head back out of the way as that ball zips up past the gloves and into the gloves of Butler. It got a bit of kick, and it didn't miss the off bail by much either. Moeen was not demonstrative, but just gave it a little whistle of appreciation. Tries again, and Head backs away and cuts to point and can't get through the offside trap. So a very tidy start here. One ball to come. Couple to come in this over from Moeen Ali. Travis Head looking for something to hit. He can only flick it across the line, where mid-on gets around the field and keeps the scoring to a single. Warner's first ball will follow. If the scoreboard's finally caught up, it was the last ball of the over. And so we're 3 for none after the first over.
Double spin. Looks as though Will Jacks has the ball in his hand. Both these Australian batters wanting pace on the ball to throw their hands outside the off stump. Will Jacks, he does bowl in the power play for Surrey. It's like he shaved all his hair off as well, but England opting for double spin to begin, which is an interesting ploy, but given what we've seen in that previous over, not a surprising one. I saw Jos Buttler just wave his hand towards Jofra Archer and say, you just hold on. Clearly the plan would have been initially for Archer to bowl the second over, but quick on-the-spot thinking by Buttler means he's opted for his second off-spinner.
So the 2 fielders allowed outside the circle. We've got a deep mid-wicket for Travis Head, and we've got a long off. Harry Brook down on the rope there. And then, going around the clock face, a slip, a short third, a cover, a square cover. Travis Head goes over the top, over the leg side. It's carried for 6 and bashed into the boundary fence on the full. There's a metal fence down there that might have taken a piece out of the ball. As Travis Head says, I've had enough of pushing off spin around after 6 balls of it. The 7th one is going the journey. Got enough of it.
Yeah, very flighted from Jacks, giving Head the opportunity to play that shot.
Jacks round the wicket, and Head goes again. That's even bigger. That's soaring high in the air. It might be on the roof. It smashed one of the solar panels. Well, how about that for sustainable energy? Travis Head has volleyed it out of the ground. It's landed on the solar panel on the roof of the stand towards the port side of the ground over a deep mid-wicket, and it's from there vaulted over the roof, over the back of the stand, and I'm not sure where that ball's ended up, and I don't know if it'll be coming back.
That might be on the bus. I think that's in the direction of our team bus that Matt Henry cramps himself into the boot of every day to bring us to the ground. But that was huge. That's the biggest one we've seen so far here at this ground. The pitch is over that side of the ground and the wind is blowing that way, but to hit it out the ground is a good effort. And Will Jacks, 6-6, he's under pressure. There's a field change. Long on goes back.
Australia 15 for none. Travis Head wants to go again, backs away, slashes a thick outside edge. It's racing towards the boundary. It's just slowing up, and Mark Wood slides across the ground, taps it back. Was he in contact with the rope? We're not sure. Rashid's got around from fine leg, and they've got the ball back in, but the umpires might want to have a look. Mark Wood with a big smile on his face. Did he get that back cleanly? Oh, he's done very well.
Excellent.
Very well. He's just tipped it inside before his knee strikes the boundary cushion. So
it just makes me nervous.
Yeah.
When I see Mark Wood diving towards the boundary like that, I'm like, come on.
Not worth it for 2 runs, you reckon?
Well, he saved one, hasn't he? Warner's on strike. Saved 1 run, but as we've seen 2 games go to super overs so far this tournament, so every run does count.
It is Warner on strike. The scoreboard has Travis Head still on strike. And Warner, slog sweep over deep backward square. There's another 6. Well, the on-the-spot thinking from Jos Buttler might not have been the right rein to pull in the end. Will Jacks has been punted out of the ground 3 times out of 4. And Warner, that signature shot of his later career, gets down low. He's kneeling by the time he strikes the ball. And he looks to lift it behind square rather than hit powerfully in front of square like Travis Head. Go with the direction of the ball and sends it sailing away into one of the balconies in the Hall and Griffith stand. Dynamic stuff from Australia. 24 for none. Jacks tries again. Reverse sweep from Warner. Lobs it over the keeper's head off the top edge. Bit of glove, bit of forearm perhaps. They get through for a run. The umpire says that was glove involved there, so it will go to the batter. 25 for none. Head's on 18. Warner's on 7. 18 from 9 balls, Travis Head, and Warner 7 off 2. So this is a rocketing start from Australia at a ground where they really struggled to score quickly the other night against Oman. Doing the opposite here. Jacks under the pump, backing away goes Head, slaps it to cover. But tumbling across, it's a good stop from Jordan, away to his right. And he stops any more damage being done. But the damage is extensive. 22 runs from the over. Australia 25 for none after 2.
Yeah, not quite the start that England would have wanted there in the second over. Moeen bowled brilliantly the first over, driving it into the surface, which meant that Travis Head had to pop back and play most of the deliveries off the back foot from just around the top of the stumps. But Will Jacks being a more loopy off spinner, the ball comes up out of his hand, whereas Moeen's comes pretty flat. And down meant that Travis Head could just plant his foot down the middle of the pitch, have a big slog sweep at it, get underneath it, and help it on its way for 6. So England now, after looking rosy at the end of the first over, have got their backs against the wall now, and they turn to their premier fast bowler, Jofra Archer, to try and make a difference.
Well, hindsight always helps. You have a good over a spin, you think, let's try that again, and it doesn't work out. So Butler has gone for express pace. He's got 2 of those options, Wood and Archer. He's turning to Archer first of all to bowl to David Warner, who hasn't always been comfortable against absolute top-notch pace in the last few years of his international career. He's had some struggles. He's had a few wins as well. Took a double 100 against a South African team where Unric Nortje was bowling mid-150s consistently, but there are times when Warner has not looked comfortable against it. And Archer into this international comeback around the wicket. Warner chips it just wide of mid-on. That wasn't a convincing shot. Had the field been a little different, it would have been a comfortable catch, but mid-on had too much ground to make up coming around the circle. 26 for none. Warner on to 8.
Just insinuating to his partner Head that maybe just stuck in the surface and bounced a touch. Warner threw the shot early, which is unusual when you're facing the pace of Jofra Archer, but that one definitely just stuck in the pitch a slight little bit.
Travis Head, if he gets any width, he'll carve it. Archer, Yorker, and Head. He's called through for the run by Warner, who dives at the non-striker's end. I think he would have been safe. Butler was gesturing as though he thought that was close, but it was Warner's call. The ball squeezed away just behind point. Warner wanted the run immediately. Happy to get back on strike. 27 for none.
He looks in a bullish mood, David Warner. He immediately got up. He did the full belly flop dive along that rough surface of the wicket, which is never pleasant. He's got tubey grip protecting his elbows for exactly that, but he was immediately up. It's like a down up, as if he was a rugby player and was ready to take the second run if there was an overthrow.
Archer. Try again. Warner's backing away, calling wait as he punches the ball to cover. Can't get it past the fielder there.
Good bowling that from Archer. Round the wicket, not looking, there is a slip in place, but he's not particularly looking to swing that ball away from David Warner, because that will offer width to the diminutive left-hander to be able to throw his hands at. So he's just following David Warner. He's taking little pigeon steps outside the leg stump, and Archer can see him going, follows it in towards his midriff and can only defend it back out towards point. So good start for Archer.
Archer around the wicket once again, looking for Warner, hunting him, and he's going in at the toes as Warner backs away. He's able to dig the ball out to deep mid-wicket over some of the blotchy, discoloured grass out there. And he gets back for a very comfortable second in the end. Doesn't have to race for that one. 29 for none. They do have a fielder in the deep on the leg side, but squarer than that ball, so the 2 results. Interesting that Chris Jordan was keeping, it slipped rather to the spinners, and Moeen Ali it slipped to the quicker bowler, but they've taken Moeen out of that position now. More conventional ring field. Moeen's at mid-wicket, bouncer down the leg side, and that's a wide. Archer was looking to cramp Warner, trying to aim for that front shoulder, but just put a few too many inches on that angle.
Yeah, relatively quick from Archer. Again, you've got to try and cramp David Warner for room. He does play the pull shot sometimes, but it can also get him in trouble and go straight up the chimney for a simple chance. So Archer just trying that one out.
Short third and short fine leg. So if there's any top edge on anything, it is going. Archer to Warner, who backs away and pumps him over cover. Doesn't time it perfectly. The ball's lobbing, pitching, rolling back, and Johnny Bairstow's chasing it. And in the end, he leaves Will Jacks to pick up the ball and essay the long throw back to Joss Butler. So not a bad effort from Archer. He's conceded a couple of singles and a couple of twos. He's got one more to bowl because of the wide. They're 32 for none. One ball left in the third over. Archer with the Worrell, Weeks and Walcott stand at his back. Familiar turf here in Barbados for Jofra Archer. He bowls around the wicket to Warner, who's surprised by that one. Not entirely comfortable as it gets him up near the splice, near the gloves, but the ball drops away to square leg, and he's thinking runs first and discomfort second, Warner, as he sprints through to the far end. 33 for none after 3 overs. It's a flyer for Australia. Travis Head 19 off 11 balls. David Warner 13 off 7. 33 without loss.
Yeah, that one's just kicked off out the surface. It's a off-cutter from Jofra Archer, and it's just popped, and it's hit David Warner on the top hand. If it's hitting top-class players on the top hand, it means the bounce is very erratic. We've seen a little bit from that end with the bowlers running towards us. Moeen Ali bowled one into the surface that just leapt and kicked and beat the edge of Travis Head, and that one, also an off-cutter from Jofra Archer, has kicked up as well. So that's the reason why I thought that batting first would be the best ploy on this pitch. Just from looking at it and what I've watched so far on this ground suggests to me that that bounce is going to get no easier as the game goes on.
I think Warner's relieved that it hit him on that thick slab of padding on the back of the hand rather than
and it was a slower ball.
fingers.
Yeah, 76 miles an hour as opposed to 91 like the others in the over.
South Africa recovering a bit, if you're keeping an eye on that game. They're 42 for 4 at the moment. They need 62 more runs off 55 balls with Miller and Stubbs at the crease. And here we've got Mark Wood ready to unleash. Double pace as he runs all the way in and bowls to Warner, who hits him for 6. A beautiful arc on that ball as it soars into the crowd over deep square leg. That was effortless.
Out the ground.
Effortless.
It's done the solar panels again. I'm going to send a bill to David Warner for these now. It's clipped the top of the solar panel and disappeared out the ground. Those balls are about £60 each, so that's £120 down for the ICC. Thanks for coming, but that's a huge shot by Warner. Wood going full, trying to tuck the line up, but the length is there for David Warner to just flick his wrists. And those big bats and those powerful forearms have just carried it all the way out the ground. It's a wonderful start of the over for Australia.
David Warner's definitely been docked more than that out of his match fee on a few occasions, so I don't think he'll mind paying for a few of the balls.
I'm not sure he's scratching around for £60, David Warner, unfortunately.
No, I think he's going okay. Mark Wood will try again. Right arm over full, hooked by Warner. It's gone for 6 again. Australia running amok here in Bridgetown at the Kensington Oval, and that's gone into that balcony again in the Hall and Griffith stand. And neither Wes Hall nor Charlie Griffith would have much enjoyed being hit like that. Intimidating fast bowlers from Barbados' past. We've got a couple of intimidating fast bowlers here being whacked. Mark Wood's gone again.
Yeah, it's a good shot, but he's not looking at it, Warner. That it suggests that it's not quite come off the surface as he's thought it might do, but the extra pace of Mark Wood has meant that it has skipped on, and he's actually put it through the advertising hoarding there. It's pierced a hole in the banner that says ICC Men's T20 World Cup, West Indies and USA 2024, and David Warner's put a hole in it. So that's they can dock a bit more for damage to that one off his match fee. Using
it for target practice at the moment. Australia 45 for none in the 4th over. Warner's 25 off 9. He's going at a strike rate of 278. Head 19 off 11. This is unbelievable stuff.
Well, it's unseen at this ground as well so far. There's been talk that this is in this tournament, but that there's talk that this is the best surface on the block of pitches. But
Mark Wood will try again. He's got Warner in his sights. He bowls full, and Warner defends back to the bowler. That's a better length, better line.
Yeah, that's the length, isn't it? It's the splice length, top of the stumps length that is the most tricky one to hit. Fuller than that, the batter can just step forward and flick it. These guys aren't worried by express pace too much when it's a white ball coming down at them. And then anything shorter than that just looks as though it might be sitting up a little bit out of the surface. So that length that Mark would hit there, it's imperative that he keeps going.
He's got a ring field, short third. 5 in the circle on the offside. Wood coming up and he bowls a full toss. It's hit for 6. And that has gone not quite onto the roof this time. That one does go into the populace in the bottom tier of the Greenwich and Haynes stand. And it wasn't that high a full toss, I suppose, but Warner was able to dip and get under it and lift it away. It doesn't really matter how fast you're bowling. If a good enough player is there, you bowl them a full toss. Sure, it was 149 kilometres an hour, but that's a third 6 for the over.
Yeah, these guys are not worried by pace. You can see David Warner dancing around sometimes in the red ball game against this type of pace. But he knows that if Mark Wood misses with the wind pushing across the ground that way, it's the shorter of the 2 boundaries as well. And to David Warner, your game plan is always to bowl a tight line, but he knows that now. He's not silly. He just stands there and waits for it and is gifted a full toss to help all the way for 6.
51 for none. Mark Wood bowls again. Warner pulls along the ground, this time for 4. Kept that one down. That was deliberate, more a test match pull. They do have a mid-wicket there. Putting in the big dive, away to the left, but no good. That ball goes too far in front of square, and you know you've time to pull well when that's the part of the ground it ends up at. 55 for none. Warner's on to 35 from 12 deliveries.
1 4 and 4 sixes. There's been 6 sixes between these 2 batters so far in 3.5 overs. 55 for none feels like a mammoth score off the power play already with 2 overs to go. Mark Wood thus far this over has gone for 22 runs.
Deep mid-wicket goes back. Along with the deep backward square, Wood to Warner, and he drops the ball to backward point and then says no run as Liam Livingstone picks it up and shapes to hurl it at the non-striker stumps. But in the end, elects to hold on to the Kookaburra. 4 overs bowled, 55 for none. We have not seen a start like this from any team in this T20 World Cup. This is buccaneering stuff. So to get an idea of what's happening with the pitches out there, we've got a very dry, brown-looking wicket square. This pitch is the brownest of them all, and it looks completely shaved. It's completely bare. It's got some cracks on it, but it looked like they might be more cosmetic cracks rather than cracks that you could hit and do something devastating with.
Yeah, they're not Perth 2013 cracks where Ryan Harris was getting the ball to move 45 degrees off the surface towards the slips, but they are in your eye line as a batter, and they did look as though they might just crumble on the edges a little bit, which again, when looking at that surface, is why winning the toss and batting first felt like an important thing to do.
We're going back to spin. Moeen Ali. He's bowling to Travis Head, who backs away and slams him down the ground for 4. Change of pace doesn't matter. Travis Head giving himself plenty of room to get that bat swing through to a fuller length ball. Hits it straight. Mid-on is quite straight, but still can't get across to stop that shot. Australia up to 59 for none. Travis Head, he's been snoozing at the non-striker's end for a couple of overs, and now he's 23 off 12.
Yeah, this is savage, isn't it? This is it's an unpleasant watch at the moment if you're an England fan, and there's a lot of them in today. Some baking in the party stand.
Moeen round the wicket to Head, who again backs away and lofts him down the ground for 6. Yep, right next to the sight screen, just to the onside of straight. And it's into the Worrell, Weeks and Walcott stand, which is well populated at this time of day. It's a spot in the shade. But England are in the heat, and they are wilting so far. 65 for none. We're only in the 5th over. We've had 26 legal deliveries.
We're not even that far into the 5th over either. This is, this is ugly viewing at the moment if you're an England fan. Travis Head didn't look like he got that at all. It looked like it was off the toe of the bat, but he's hit it 89 metres down the ground. Chris Jordan at mid-on looked interested for a second, tracking it back over his shoulder, but no luck.
65 for none. Moeen to Travis Head, who backs away and punches down to long off, where England do have a fielder. Sigh of relief when it comes to that delivery. 66 for none. Head up to 30 from 14. Warner 35 from 13. They did this to New Zealand during the 50-over World Cup. You remember that opening partnership where they took about 117 off the first 10 overs or something along those lines.
So hard to stop the momentum when it's like this. Bear in mind as well, Moeen Ali's first over, I think, went for three, is it? Yeah.
3 singles off the first over.
63.
We've had 63 since. Moeen to Warner, who charges and drives him hard at mid-on. In the end, doesn't get a run. He's not game to take that on. He was looking to go square out through deep mid-wicket. But Jordan was moving well out at mid-on, right on the edge of the circle. He's able to prevent the run.
So that's 63 runs off 3.4 overs.
Moeen, and Warner goes again, this time cross bat, and this time he will get 4. It's a little touch, a little fingertipper from Jordan sprawling across as he had to get squarer at mid-on, but all he was able to do was change the line in which the ball would roll over the rope. They do have deep mid-wicket, who was trying to get around, but wasn't able to make up enough ground. 70 for none. Warner's up to 39.
And it's not even risky cricket that Australia are playing here. It's not wild slogging and just standing there and swinging as hard as you can. It's calculated.
Moeen to Warner, who backs away and he's bowled. Finally something for England. And Moeen Ali has looked the pick of their bowlers so far, even though he's gone the journey in this over. 3 runs off his first, he picks up a wicket in his second. And as the 5th over comes to an end, Australia, after a dramatic start, are 70 for 1. David Warner, 39 of 16 deliveries. And in T20 cricket, you can say that's an opener doing their job, even if he's now out.
Yep, so he's done 2 different roles, hasn't he, in these last 2 games. Previous game against Oman, he got 50-odd off almost a run a ball, which got his team through to a competitive total, and then now he's absolutely put the hammer down and exploded and put England under the pump after only 5 overs of this game.
Hello.
Good afternoon, Henry. It feels like a lot's happened in the 23 minutes since you departed.
It does rather, doesn't it? And it has to be said, it's not quite got a plan for England. The good news is they got a wicket. The bad news is it kept horribly low. And
that's the length, actually. So the time where the batters have looked in trouble have been when they've been on the back foot to the spinners trying to play cut shots. That has looked the most threatening delivery. England just haven't managed to find that length enough. And then from a seam perspective, it's that length at the top of the stumps or around the thigh pad region that you want to be hovering around. And again, apart from Jofra Archer, who actually did bowl a very good over in the 3rd over, England haven't found that length either. So that's the reason why they're so far under the pump at 70 for 1 after 5 overs.
Both Will Jacks and Mark Wood's overs going for 22 apiece. This is a massive test for Jos Buttler's captaincy. He's got to get every decision right from here on in, and I'm not convinced. We both said it, and everybody we've spoken to said it. Just a moment. Here comes Jofra Archer. This is whacked away into the offside, stopped by Moeen Ali. The left-hand seam against this Australian left-handed duo at the top of the order has historically proved the way to go. England have got Reece Topley, who takes a lot of wickets early on, and they haven't gone with him. And it's not just Jos Buttler.
No.
Hindsight is easy.
Yeah, it is easy, absolutely. And it's easier as well when you're detached from the group and the situation to see things.
Mid-on, mid-off are up. Here comes Archer around the wicket. Oh, inside edge, very nearly onto the stumps from Travis Head, and Archer looks a class apart at the moment. He's nearly getting England's second breakthrough. 70 for 1 with 4 balls left of a gruesome power play from England's perspective. Superb for Australia and our listeners on the ABC. Very nice to be with you.
Yep, hope you're all very happy down in Australia with what your team are up to. Jofra Archer, though, just showing he's got the intuition.
Archer again round the wicket to the left-handed Travis Head, who hits the ball aerially, but through the gap between cover and backward point for 4, out towards the beach. And more punishment for a beleaguered England bowling attack. It's 74 for 1, midway through the 6th over.
Yeah, that's 3 slower balls in a row from Archer, and the previous 2 did just hold in the surface off a foolish length, and Travis Head couldn't quite rock back and pierce that offside field. This one was a touch shorter, and Head, removing that right foot from the equation as he does so many times, finds the gap between point for 4 more runs.
In comes Archer once again, round the wicket, pace on and bowls him. Beauty! Travis Head goes, stumps blade, And Jofra Archer gets the acclaim of his home nation, playing for England in Barbados. And he smashes those stumps apart, 74 for 2.
Yep, fourth slur ball of the over from Jofra Archer. He's recognised that the ball coming onto the bat is exactly what these Australian batters want. It's an off cutter, doesn't necessarily spin off the surface, but it just holds that tiny fraction of a second, which means that Travis Head is through the shot before he has an opportunity to connect properly. It tickles the inside edge, it knocks middle stump out the ground. The zinger bails and the lit up stunts light up, and England have their second breakthrough, and this is really the moment that England have to squeeze and try and put these two fresh Australian batters who have neither faced the ball under pressure.
England getting 2 quick wickets, and goodness me did they need them. Australia started with 70 runs from the first 5 overs. The power play is going to be comfortably the most run heavy of the tournament. And Australia, if they keep going at their current run rate, in theory, will get to 261, the sort of total we were seeing in the IPL. They will surely slow up from that. But England have had a horror start that is being slightly recovered, having seen a couple of wickets. Glenn Maxwell comes to the middle. He's been in a poor run of form. And Jofra Archer, with the sun beating down, is running in over the wicket to the right hand. A slip in place, and one hand off the bat as it's defended by Maxwell. He has a little look at the surface, takes a step towards the leg side. That was pace on, and it was pace in a big way, 93 miles an hour.
And this is in the build-up to the game. Jofra Archer did a really nice interview with you, Henry, and I've spoke at length about what makes him special, and it's that intuition to understand what's necessary in any moment. He's bowled 4 slow ballers and got the wicket of Travis Head, immediately back up to 94 miles an hour.
Maxwell waiting. Oh, it's another quick ball that flies on through. Goodness me. And he swings out of the way, does Maxwell, with 92 miles an hour. That small projectile whistling past the grill. And the power play comes to an end with 4 from it. A wicket. It's Australia's power play, no question. But 74 for 2 is an awful lot better than 70 without loss, as it was, 5-10 minutes ago. We're going to see Adil Rashid into the attack. Let me give you some Glenn Maxwell stats, just to really demonstrate the run of form he's been in. He's scored, across his last 14 T20 innings, an average of 8.2, and only 115 runs in that time.
They're S-Fin numbers, though. Stick me at number 4 for Australia. I reckon I might produce something similar, but you know how dangerous he is. He's got those big, strong forearms, those whippy wrists, and if he gets in, can be so dangerous. That's why teams persist with him. He's also got his off-spin and his fielding that he brings, all 3 facets of the game. But this now is a very, very important passage of play for England. Adil Rashid, their premier leg spinner, bowling to 2 right-handers who would prefer pace on the ball in this situation. And England, now in the position they find themselves, have to hunt wickets to stem the flow of runs.
Wicket's the key. Adil Rashid is a man that normally provides. He's going to bowl with a slip in place. His great friend Moeen Ali crouches with his hands on his knees. In comes Rashid over the wicket. Marsh driving into the deep and the offside, out towards Harry Brook fielding in front of the party stand. England making the decision to bowl with spin from both ends. Early on, Moeen went for 3 from his first over, but Will Jacks got taken apart, 22 from the second. And innovative thinking can go both ways, and sometimes it can reap rewards. Sometimes, though, an opposition can really get hold of a team. That's what happened today with Australia.
Well, it was a last-minute decision by Butler. You saw him wave towards Jofra Archer just before he nodded to Will Jacks to say, "You're on." He said, "Jofra, just hold it there for a moment." After what he'd seen in the first over from Moeen Ali, that ball just holding in the surface from the off-spin.
In comes Rashid again. Maxwell moving around in the crease and really mistiming a sweep into the leg side. Archer in the wide-brimmed hat will run to his right at mid-wicket to pick up.
It's brave wearing a wide-brimmed hat here, actually. The wind, we were out there earlier, weren't we, Henry? The wind, it looks rather innocuous when you're watching from up here, but it is strong, it is stiff, so that hat could find itself flying across the outfield at some stage.
Tall figure of Marsh waits, 76 for 2. In comes Rashid, and this is swept fine Out into the leg side, that's a good shot, that'll be 4. And away it goes, bisecting the 2 fielders towards the Greenwich and Haynes stand and just reaching for it, and he plays it so well, does Mitchell Marsh, the Australian captain. 80 for 2.
Such a big reach outside his front pad. He can get that foot all the way down the pitch on middle stump, and his long arms mean that he can meet the ball exactly on the half volley and not giving it an opportunity to spin. And the placement out there to pierce that gap between the 2 fielders is excellent as well. 4 more runs for Australia.
Archer goes towards fine leg. In comes Rashid to bowl to Marsh, who's forward watchfully in defence, pushing into space in the offside. That's good running, and Australia have the room to do this. Pick off the occasional ball, try and find the boundary, run the singles hard. 7 already from this over from Adil Rashid with 2 balls left of it.
Well, they'll also know that England's only way into this game is for them to gift wickets through these middle overs so that the lower middle order is batting towards the back end. If Australia build any sort of a partnership here, it's going to be so dangerous for England.
In comes Adil Rashid again, into bowl to Maxwell, a quicker ball this time, whipped into the leg side. Archer will field, and everything he does on this ground, Jofra Archer gets a big cheer from a crowd that are passionate about one of their own, albeit he's playing in the colours of England rather than West Indies. Huge cheer, and he's at the end of his mark. Here comes Adil Rashid to bowl to Glenn Maxwell, who whips the ball with a lot of bottom hand out towards Chris Jordan in front of the Garfield Sobers pavilion. End of the over. Good one for Australia again, 8 from it. It's 82 for 2 after 7. Is it fair, speaking about Reece Topley, left arm success against the 2 left-handers for Australia? We have those conversations. England have that data. Are we just being annoying and using hindsight?
No, we're not being annoying at all. I said that I thought it was inevitable that Reece Topley would play this game because of that movement that he gets. So you look at the wickets that have been taken early in games here by seamers. It's been left arm swing bowlers hitting the pads of right-handed batters in the first couple of overs. So you felt as though that was going to be a potent threat for England. They didn't look that threatening with the new ball against Scotland the other day, who took them 90 for none off the first 10 overs. So it was somewhat of a surprise when Reece Topley wandered out in his trainers holding a coffee for the warm-up rather than his bowling boots and a cricket ball. But these guys have all the data. There's logic behind the decisions. They don't just throw chips in the air and whoever comes down first they play. There's reasons. We'll find out after the game why.
Mark Wood, 22 from his first over, comes into bowl his second. Inside edge will fly down towards Rashid, waiting at fine leg, and a single is taken. Well, it'll be interesting to know. I'm rather intimidated by the prospect of having to speak to Joss Butler if it goes badly for England.
I'm glad you can do it. It's not me.
But a reminder why this game matters so much for England, other than the obvious, but because the game against Scotland was washed out, there is the prospect that England... I'll bring you more in just a moment, because Mark was turning at the end of his mark, running into bowl to Marsh, struck on the pad. There's half an appeal for LBW. Maxwell's setting off for a ill-advised run from the non-striker's end, and it won't be possible. But if England lose this game and lose it heavily, then you're looking at net run rate calculations, because presuming Scotland beat Oman tomorrow, which is by no means certain but feels likely, in Antigua, the most England could get would be what Scotland have already got, which would be 5 points. And then you're looking at net run rate calculations for England to try and overhaul that. And if it takes a big hit today, then they are in more than a spot of bother. Mark Wood running into bowl outside the off stump, clobbered away. It's so hard, but it goes straight towards Harry Brookett mid-off. Much better over this from Mark Wood. Just the 1 run from it so far. Midway through the 8th, Australia 83 for 2.
He's clobbered that Marsh, isn't he? Such a big figure. Stands at the crease. He's holding the bat in his right hand, which if you walk out on a Saturday in village cricket holding it in your right hand, everyone thinks you're not a great batter, but it's like it's a club in the hands of Mitchell Marsh, and when he hits it, it stays hit. Absolutely nailed that to Harry Brookett mid-off, but it was a dot ball.
He waits now, the Australian skipper. Here comes Mark Wood, very full, and just dropping down on it is Marsh. It'll be Wood sprinting to chase after it as it drops towards a vacant space at mid-wicket. They'll get 2. That's good running once again, 85 for 2 is the score. 3 from the over so far. England desperately hunting wickets and a way back into this game, because at the moment, with 70 from the first 5 overs, though they are hauling it back a little, they do need to keep the pressure on, because Australia have got such a quick head start in this game. Wood down below us. Tosses the ball from one hand to the other. And begins moving in. Past umpire Nitin Menon, over the wicket. It's a back of a length delivery that rises rather uncomfortably towards Marsh. This is excellent from Mark Wood, I have to say. 22 from his first over, just 3 from this one. 1 ball left of the 8th.
Yeah, I think the way that Wood's bowled in this over signifies how hard this surface is going to be to just stand there and whack it. He's been more disciplined with the lengths that he's bowled. Clearly you have the protection of all of the fielders outside of the circle now that you don't inside those first 6 overs, but bowling a good length over the top of the stumps is very hard to just swing away on this pitch, and that's where England went wrong in those first 6 overs. They didn't hit that length often enough.
Every ball of every game for you from this ICC Men's T20 World Cup. We're here in Bridgetown, Barbados. Here comes Mark Wood to conclude the 8th over, and that's well bowled. Appeal for LBW. There's a little bit of bat and pad, I fancy. Wood loves this. He's running towards Joss Buttler and imploring him to go upstairs with a decision that has been thus far turned down by Nitin Menon. So if they do overturn this, it'll have to be via DRS, and Buttler, I think, is uninterested. Despite the protestations of Mark Wood, England will not be going upstairs, but it is a really good over. That 3 from it, 85 for 2 after 8.
Yep, good over from Wood. Just the ball just angling back into the right-handed batters as well, meaning that they can't throw their hands at anything whatsoever. A couple of slower balls in there, which again Jofra Archer would have communicated that those off-cutting slower balls are just not coming off the surface at the same pace each time, so that can be a good weapon for you as a bowler. The trouble is for England, with this many runs on the board, the Australian bowlers, who are very intelligent themselves, will be watching, processing that information and understanding what they have to do in the second half of the game, which again is the reason why I think batting first felt right on this wicket, even though both captains were insistent that they wanted to bowl.
85 for 2 the score. Adil Rashid is going to bowl his second over from the far end of the ground, the Joel Garner end. He's moving in now, outside the off stump, whipped away by Glenn Maxwell, and for 4 or possibly 6, it went flat and hard, and it is 4. Bounced just inside the boundary, and the Australian flags are flying as we get another burst of Rihanna, which tends to be a fairly popular refrain in this part of the world. We're probably 200 yards away from Rihanna Drive, where the pop star grew up. Here comes Rashid again. Maxwell is on to 7. Rashid bowls outside the off stump, chopped towards the backward point. Running round is Liam Livingston, who tumbles and saves the second run, but 5 from the over so far, 90 for 2. As we look at the LBW shout from Mark Wood, and yeah, inside edge. It was a good decision not to review.
I think it was point. I think Johnny Bairstow at point came running in and said, no, that's bat first. Thick inside edge onto the pad. Got himself in a bit of a tangle though, Marsh.
Marsh waits for Rashid in the sunshine. Outside the off stump, oh, he gets lucky. The googly comes off an inside edge and not far from that leg stump. Lovely sound of the brass band somewhere down below us. Seeing a replay of that, yeah, it was inside edge onto the foot actually, and then not far from that leg stump. Rashid again. He does the same thing. It flies towards Archer at fine leg. And a bit of pressure being built here, not least because he's just not picking that googly from Adil Rashid. 90 for 2.
Yeah, that was much flatter and quicker from Adil Rashid, 83 kilometres an hour. The previous 3 deliveries, that one 95, pushed out of the front of the hand, wide outside the off stump. Marsh just thrashing around, trying to find a boundary. You can see the frustration, even though his team are in a fantastic position.
Marsh waits for Rashid. He's in once again. It's been swung away for 6 into the leg side and sailing away into the top tier of the Hall and Griffith stand. That is massive.
It's out the ground.
Again?
Out the ground, off the solar panels, out the ground. Yeah, that's 60 more pounds for the ICC.
Oh, it's another one. Look at that.
Yeah, 180 quid out in the car park. Oh, he's absolutely ruined the solar panel as well. That can't be cheap. They're racking up a decent bill here, the Australians.
95 metres. That has gone a long way.
He's pounced on the length there, Marsh. The previous deliveries, he's tried to go back and work it off the back foot. He's tried to sweep. This one was just dug into the pitch that little bit more, maybe only half a yard or so, but giving Marsh the opportunity to get right back on his stumps, open up his stance and absolutely nail that over deep mid-wicket and ruin a solar panel.
Australia 96 for 2. 1 ball left of the 9th over. Rashid has gone for 11 from this over so far. There's a ball left of it. Slip comes out and Marsh goes hard again into the leg side, but straight to the hands of mid-wicket on the ground. And so it'll be just a single. Marsh is on 15, Maxwell 8. And Australia 97 for 2 after 9. So in the other game taking place at the moment over in Group D in New York, not quite the same vibe as this one in terms of run scoring. Netherlands were 103 for 9 from their 20 overs. We thought surely that's a foregone conclusion. Well, South Africa found themselves at 12 for 4. Then came a big partnership. The 16th over was a maiden. And then there was a wicket. And with 3 overs remaining, they need 25 runs in 18 balls, and that is no certainty. A reminder, India-Pakistan, another blockbuster fixture tomorrow, 3:15 p.m. And after that, Oman-Scotland, which could prove to be a vital game from England's perspective. And while I'm here, let me remind you, you can actually access our commentary and choose which game you want to listen to via your smart speaker. Just ask for BBC Sounds to play 5 Sports Extra or Test Match Special. And we will be beamed to you wherever you might be. 97 for 2. Chris Jordan's going to have a go from the Malcolm Marshall end below us. He runs in and has to wait for a ball with the pace taken off it as Marsh chopped out towards deep backward point and Phil Salt for a single. 98 for 2. Australia creeping towards the 100 mark.
There have been 3 maidens bowled by the Netherlands in that. Wonder how many maidens. There'll be someone listening who knows. What's the most maidens ever bowled in a T20 innings? You'd think 3 is a very high number.
You would have thought that's got to be up there, haven't you? Just looking, I can see that Bazda Leader has bowled 3 overs. He's got 1 left. The question is, who's going to follow De Leader, I suppose? 98 for 2. Here comes Chris Jordan in the sunshine and tucking the ball into the leg side without any timing, really, is Maxwell. No is the cry as he thinks about a second run collected by Chris Jordan. 99 for 2. I spoke to Mark Wood a couple of days ago at the team hotel, and he was saying that very early in the morning on the beach there were some horses that were led to have a swim from the nearby racetracks. And as he had his coffee first thing in the morning, you could just watch them being led around, swimming way out to sea as well.
It's amazing here. I think that's not too far from where we're staying as well. I was here in January with some friends, and some who like horse riding went down and trot through the sea on the horses. It looked wonderful.
Here comes Chris Jordan over the wicket to bowl to Mitch Marsh. Very full ball, which is dug out into the onside. Harry Brook is sprinting for all he's worth to stop the second run. He does that, but the 100 is up, and it's come quickly, to say the least. 100 for 2 after 9.3 overs. But Stephen Finn, bearing in mind it was 70 without loss after 5, it's actually been a reasonable recovery from England.
It has. The concern is how hard it looks to hit boundaries now after that new ball has disappeared. It's very hard to just hit through the line. England mixing their pace up, mixing their lengths up, bowling nicely, but Australia have a head start.
Here comes Jordan, very full, again pushed into the offside, and there is no run. Moeen will crouch in those red boots to stop it at cover. 100 for 2 is the score. Just looking over to those solar panels, they're a patchwork of... Well, it looks as though a bit like when you hit one of those reinforced glass windows and you get that sort of massive splintering in a big circle. And there's a series of them on that roof above the Greenwich and Haynes stand. They've been peppered today. 100 for 2. 2 balls left of the 10th. Here comes Chris Jordan over the wicket and worked into the onside behind square by Maxwell, who at the moment is just playing a controlled, eased innings where he can quite happily just keep that scoreboard ticking over. 101 for 2 with 9.5 overs gone. If you're wondering about where this ground ranked historically in terms of run scoring, because we know this tournament has not provided big runs and it's been quite hard to get big scores away. Well, only twice in the history of T20 here, 2020s here, has 200 been passed. Here comes Chris Jordan, and punched into the offside, and that'll just be a single, so 5 from the over. Pretty good going from England's perspective. 102 for 2 is the score at the halfway stage, with Australia in command, but England doing their best to fight back in this game. Drinks are going to be taken. The rate that Australia are going at the moment, 10.2. And in a very healthy position indeed. So yeah, only on 2 occasions in the history of matches played T20 internationals here, 25 of them have been played, 200 has been breached just twice, but Australia at this stage, Stephen Finn, will be fancying that and perhaps a few more.
Feels that way, doesn't it? They've got power in the ranks to come as well, which is a worry. Marcus Stoinis, who played so well the other evening to drag his team out of trouble against Oman, is yet to come. Tim David, Matthew Wade, then you're into the bowlers, but those bowlers will be who England want to get to as soon as possible with the ball in hand. They're having a proper huddle there, England, arms around each other to say, let's not let this derail us too much, let's try and drag our way back into the game, but it's going to be some ask from here at 102 for 2 after 10 overs.
Well, drinks are being taken as a conference amongst the England side out there, no doubt looking to try and find a way of getting things back together and recover the situation. Before handing over to Jeff Lemon, let me just say good luck to all of those volunteers working on the big help out this weekend. We're expecting around about 7 million people to get involved across the country, including a number of cricket-related projects. To find out more, check out the Big Help Out website and app to discover how you can get involved. England need to find some way of, not the big help out, it's get the middle order out, I think, at the moment, because Australia in a strong position. Stephen Finn, some more from you, and then Jeff Lemon.
Yeah, the yellow shirts of Australia fans are just becoming more prominent around the ground that I can see. It looks as though there might even be a tall group of them on the far side, and they'll be very happy with their team's work. That power play was savage. The second over being taken for 22 really kick-started it. Travis Head following on from his IPL form where he was brutal inside that power play for Sunrisers Hyderabad, propelling them to some ridiculous scores over the course of that IPL. But the surprising thing about this is how hard it has seemed to hit sixes like that on these surfaces thus far in this tournament, which makes that hitting at the beginning of today even more remarkable and leaves Australia, I think, in a brilliant position. It's not even just a good position. 102 for 2 seems like a mammoth score on this surface.
It's an outstanding position, and you could look at that and say 100 after 10, so they should make 200. I don't think it'll be that easy as the innings goes on. They'd be luckier to make more like 180, something like that, but even that would be hugely challenging on this surface. We've had the ball replaced, at least once, maybe twice.
3 times.
3 times.
Yeah, we're £60 down for the ICC outside over the top of the Greenwich and Haynes stand.
So we're about to get going after the break. And we've got Archer back into the attack. 1 for 12 from his 2 overs. He's in bowling over the wicket to Marsh, who swings hard across the line. Bottom edge out to deep backward square leg for 103 for 2. Meanwhile, it's been rocking and rolling one way and another in New York. A couple of wickets fell for the South Africans. They're 6 down now, but David Miller's just hit a couple of 6s. He's still there, and it looks like he should just get South Africa home. They need 10 runs from 11 balls, but if he gets out here, that could get very squeaky indeed. They lost their first 4 wickets with 12 on the board, South Africa. So it's been a real rescue job from Miller. We've got England and Australia here. The old contest. Archer up to Maxwell. Short ball, digs it into the pitch. Maxwell gets up high on his toes and pulls it out to deep mid-wicket for 1. They've got a sweeper back there, 104 for 2. Not the oldest rivalry, of course, England and Australia. If you've been paying attention through this World Cup, you'd know that's Canada and the USA, who first played in 1844 and last played about 10 days ago in Dallas. You know, an absolute rip snorter. But Australia-England, it's up there. Here goes Archer again to Marsh, who's trying to belt him through mid-wicket, and in the end gets it off the toe of the bat, on the bounce, back into the bowler's right hand. That's quite impressive when you're looking to cart it somewhere way over the leg side and you hit it back to the bowler off the cue.
Yeah, like Ronnie O'Sullivan there. Straight towards the black for an 8, but he's right off the toe of the bat there, like a snooker player. But Jofra Archer bowling lovely leg cutter, slower ball.
Archer up to Marsh, who gets a full ball and flicks this out through deep mid-wicket. It's gone for 6. That is an absolutely outrageous shot. That was a decent enough delivery. It was full, maybe it was just too full. But Marsh, with a little flick, a little casual bit of timing is what it looked like from up here, sends that ball soaring over the leg side. He just missed the Yorker, Archie. Was just short of that Yorker length.
And it's the first pace on delivery he's bowled this over. 120, 117, 119 kilometres an hour. Marsh is really thrashing around, struggling to pick up the pace of those. The first time Jofra Archer has tried a pace on delivery, Mitchell Marsh manages to get underneath that and send it for 6. A good shot. 147
k's an hour, that last one. Brisk. 110 for 2 the score. Archer to Marsh, who backs away and cuts. They've got a deep point out there. He'll jog through for 1. 111 for 2.
Sorry, Jeff, it just shows how hard I do think the Australian bowlers will be sat there watching this. And I always liked, on surfaces like this, my team batting first, because I'm watching all the time. What is Jofra Archer doing here that's working? He's bowled a leg cutter that's hit the toe end of Mitchell Marsh's bat. The off cutters to the left-handers have been very difficult to hit, and you're just getting information the whole time.
Archer to finish the over to Maxwell, who reaches outside the off stump and misses. Joss Butler applauds his bowler, who, by the standards of the others today, is going along pretty well at the moment. Archer 1 for 21 from his 3. Australia 111 for 2 from 11 overs. Marsh on 26, Maxwell on 11. I guess that's something that Pat Cummins has been doing a lot of, that bowling cutters, driving it into the pitch.
Yeah, he more just bowls an off cutter, doesn't he? Which actually, the great skill about Jofra Archer is his ability to bowl both. So he has a leg cutter that he runs his fingers down the left-hand side of the ball, which means the ball is spinning towards the left as it goes down, and it cuts off the pitch away from the swinging arc of a right-handed batter.
Right.
So that's why that ball hit the toe end of Mitchell Marsh's bat, is because as he comes through to hit the shot, the ball moves away from him, and then to the left-handers he bowls an off-cutter, which does exactly the same thing. Sometimes the guys who can only go one way, so Pat Cummins just bowls an off-cutter, that can be into the swinging arc of a right-handed batter.
Mark Wood will bowl the next over, pace to pace, back to back, and flicking across the line is Marsh out to deep mid-wicket. And again, they're not interested in putting any pressure on the throw. God, that was a brilliant throw from Livingston from the deep, flat, hard, took out leg stump, and it gives away an overthrow. So you get punished for good fielding, because we didn't actually need to hit the stumps there. They weren't looking for the second, but he did. Knocked one of the stumps out of the ground. 113 for 2, and Marsh is back on strike on 28.
And this actually shows how friendly the teams are together. Glenn Maxwell, Australian batter at the non-strikers end, was giving thumbs up to Liam Livingstone, saying thank you for the extra run. I'm not sure that would have happened 20 years ago in a battle between these two teams.
I'm not sure it would have gone down very well if it had.
No.
Wood up to Marsh, who shuffles at him and cuts hard, but they've got their field well set. They know Marsh loves that shot and hits it very powerfully, so the deep point will again keep the scoring to 1. 114 for 2. Just one thing I noticed during that previous 5 overs, there were a couple of occasions where it looked like a 2 was on and Maxwell wasn't interested, and he's normally very quick between the wickets. Just struck my curiosity. I wonder if there's something going on there with that sore ankle that he's got from the badly broken leg that he had, or something that means he's not confident trying to hair up and down for the second run.
He has looked a touch awkward actually when he's come down the pitch and had to stop and turn. Clearly when you break your leg like that, it can be debilitating.
Wood Up to bowl to Maxwell, who digs out the Yorker out over deep mid-wicket. One bounce, 4. Classic Maxwell shot. He has this snap of the wrists that he uses to full deliveries where he whips them across the line, a little bit like the way Virat Kohli does, and gets all of the pace out of that whip. And he's able to send that ball bouncing away. 118 for 2, Maxwell up to 15.
It means he hits that gap between deep mid-wicket and wide long on very well. Sometimes guys play that with stiff wrists and it goes straight towards long on the one bounce, but because he whips across the ball with those hands, he finds that gap really well, and at the moment there is no man out at deep mid-wicket.
Wood tries again to Maxwell at the stump, similar sort of shot, but he doesn't get enough of it, and this time Livingston's inside the circle and he's able to tumble across to his left and stop the ball, and doesn't throw it at any stumps on this occasion.
And deciding to change the field here. You sort of dicing with danger there a touch when Mark Wood's trying to bowl full to Maxwell with no deep mid-wicket out there on the boundary. Means that Adil Rashid, who was at fine leg, now comes inside the circle and Liam Livingston goes out to deep mid-wicket. If I was him, he's very square at the moment, almost in line with the stumps out at deep mid-wicket. I'd want him 20 yards further in front of square for Glenn Maxwell.
Wood bowls to Maxwell short, and Maxwell backs away and tries to swing across the line and doesn't lay anything on it. So they've got a deep third there for that kind of reverse pull shot that Maxwell sometimes plays to the faster bowlers, but playing that against Mark Wood is a little different.
Yeah, although if he does get hold of that, that's another lost ball, I think, up over the Garfield Sobers pavilion.
See if you could hit the solar panels on top of the Worrell, Weeks and Walcott stand.
That would be a good effort.
It's a very environmentally aware cricket ground here. Wood. Long charging run in, full at the stumps, flicks it a short fine Maxwell and can't get a run, and he's drifting out of his crease as the throw comes in. He might have been in some strife if Rashid had hit the stumps there. But that does not take place. 12 overs gone, 118 for 2. Marsh 29 off 21. And Maxwell 15 off 17, an unusual sort of strike rate for him in T20 cricket. But he's found it difficult out there after Head and Warner sacked the bowling in those opening few overs. The first over was quiet. Everything after that was very, very loud. Just to report in from New York, South Africa have survived their scare. They managed to win 6 wickets down with David Miller. The reason they got their 59 not out off 51 balls. So a sigh of relief for the South Africans as they get away from their bogey team. The Dutch beat them in the 50-over World Cup last year and the 20-over World Cup in Australia before that. But they've pulled that one out of the fire. Here in our game, 118 for 2 after 12 overs. Chris Jordan bowl another over. Hit his Yorkers pretty well before. Went for singles.
Changed his pace nicely as well. He's a very intelligent bowler, Chris Jordan, captain of Surrey in the T20 Blast and one of Joss Butler's trusted men out there on the pitch to be able to relay information, always communicating, always talking about what's going on. Bowled a very good first over.
They need a few more from him. Jordan, right arm over, up to Marsh, who's clearing the front leg and driving down to mid-off, through mid-off, down to long-off, not timing it, gets a single, 119 for 2. Australia's opening partnership was 70 in 5 overs. 30 balls it took for Warner and Head to put on 70. Warner 39 off 16, bowled by Moeen Ali. Travis Head 34 off 18, bowled by Jofra Archer. They hit 7 sixes between them. Since then it's been Marsh and Maxwell with a more circumspect kind of collaboration.
It was savage, wasn't it? And they just sensed an opportunity. Joss Butler opting to bowl Will Jacks for the second over because Moeen Ali's first over had only gone for 3. Driving the ball into the surface, bowling off spin. Was hoping for more of the same from Will Jacks, but Will Jacks is a loopy off spinner, and Travis Head, the first delivery, wasn't perturbed by the fact that there was spin from the other end. Slogged a big slog sweep over mid-wicket, and immediately as a bowler you're on the back foot, and Head took advantage of that.
Jordan come up to bowl to Maxwell now. He's stepped right across and tries to lift it over short fine. He might be out here, he's not quite. The catch doesn't quite carry. It was looping towards mid-wicket in the end. It was Johnny Bairstow moving across there to try to take that catch. So Maxwell was trying to play that pick-up shot behind square over short fine and ends up top-edging it to a fairly square mid-wicket. And Bairstow just couldn't quite get around. Another man with a badly broken leg in the past couple of years. They're linked in that way by fate. 119 for 2 is the score. They didn't get a run from that mistimed shot. Might have been able to. Seems like a missed opportunity too. So Jordan will bowl to Maxwell, who backs away and slams him for 6 over deep third. That is an outrageous shot. Outrageous. I don't know how he did that. I'm not sure how the physics of that works. Opened the face of the bat, got down low, and backed away to give himself a bit of room, and carves it up and over. They have a deep third back there, and the ball flies over his head for 6. Yep. How on earth does that happen, Stephen?
It's just a slice. It's not an edge at all. He's completely opened the face as if he's got a frying pan in his hands. He's just whipped it up over deep third. And because he's got those quick wrists that he snaps across the ball with that we spoke about earlier, it means that he can get so much more momentum on that delivery from Chris Jordan, 142 kilometres an hour, just below 90, all the way for 6.
125 for 2. Jordan to Maxwell, who misses outside the off stump. It's a wide. I don't know about that. That didn't seem particularly wide. But
come on, Nitin.
Maxwell was leaning away from it. But going back to that previous shot, when you watch cricket, you understand things by the shape that players make. You know, you see the shape of a shot. You have a feeling about what's going to happen next. You have an understanding of what should happen next. That shot from Maxwell, at first I thought he's carving 2 through deep backward point along the ground. Then I thought, oh, he's going to be caught at deep third. And then it flies over for 6 runs.
Against the wind as well, actually, which is a significant factor here as well in Bridgetown.
126 for 2 with the wide. 3 balls to come in the over. Jordan to Maxwell, who reaches for a slower ball bouncer outside the off stump and cuts it for 4. Well, he picked that, Maxwell. He waited for it. He was in position but wasn't going into the shot, just held back the shot, and in the end just places it rather than smashes it on the loop away behind point, and he's able to get it just far enough behind point to beat the deep point fielder. That is another very impressive shot and bit of touch. 130 for 2. Maxwell's up to 25. Jordan, some thinking to do. Started well. He's now gone for a dozen from the over. He's got a couple of balls to go. What can he produce? Jordan to Maxwell, who's driving it back past the bowler for 1. Not a bad result for Jordan there. And Marsh to face the last ball. You can hear the band playing there in the background. Beautiful, beautiful day in Barbados. Beautiful place to be in the world. All the cliches come true. The palm trees are swaying. The breeze is coming across the ground. Chris Jordan is in and bowling. Right arm over. Wide outside the off stump. Called wide. It won't be the last ball of the over. 132 for 2.
You can see what Jordan's trying to do. He's trying to keep it away from the swinging arc of Mitchell Marsh outside the off stump. The wind does carry the ball towards that leg side. We are also playing over that side of the square towards the shorter boundary, although some of the 6s we've seen hit that way would be 6 almost anywhere, disappearing out the ground. But Jordan just trying to keep it outside of that big shouldered swinging arc of Mitchell Marsh.
Mitchell Marsh pulls away at the last minute. Well, Jordan will be annoyed now. He's already bowling an 8-ball over, and now it's, in physical terms, a 9-ball over because he's got to walk all the way back and come in again. Something was distracting Mitchell Marsh behind the bowler's arm. There is a very big black painted sight screen and many, many panels of the grandstand, the 3W stand down there that's all completely blacked out. So I don't know what bothered him, but there's one camera operator down there who's all dressed in black to blend in to the background. Quite theatrical. Jordan trying to escape this purgatory of an over. Finishes his approach, bowls short and wide, and Marsh cuts him for 4. Well, it was a torrid over for Chris Jordan. He bowled well in the previous one. That one's gone for 18. And this roaring, scoring pace of Australia continues. 136 for 2 after 13. So they're going at 10.5. And we're coming into the back end where the hitting usually begins and where they've got a few wickets in hand as well.
And it's just come up on the screen that England are 1 over behind, which means that for the final over, if they do remain 1 over behind, I think it's an extra fielder comes up inside the circle,
right,
which is also an absolute nightmare for a bowler. At the back end, it's looking all rather ominous at the moment for England, unfortunately. For the England fans listening out there, Jos Buttler turning to another of his bowlers. This is going to be number 7 used. Liam Livingstone bowling his mixture of off-spin and leg spin here to try and whip through an over to try and save England, requiring that extra man inside the circle. But scrambling around for a breakthrough now, England, because Australia have laid a brilliant foundation.
Well, I wonder, if you're looking for bright sides, if when a big chase is posted, if that frees up England to go for it. You know, if they were coming out, if Australia had played cautiously on a slow pitch and made 140, whether England would second guess themselves chasing something like that. If they have to chase 190, 200 here, then there's no doubt about how to go about it. You just have to go and trust yourself to play.
Yeah, the trouble is, I think that'd be a good outcome for England to only be chasing that many.
Livingstone will come into bowl, and there's a switch hit immediately from Maxwell. He loves to switch the spinners, but he doesn't place it well enough. He hits it to cover. Normally he's looking to go squarer or behind square. So they've got a short third for Maxwell to a spinner, which is a, you could say brave or you could say reckless fielding position. Almost a Yorker from Livingstone in at the heel on leg stump, and Maxwell wants the second this time and Marsh doesn't. Marsh was right. Careening in off the fence. Will Jacks out there moving fast across the turf. 137 for 2, Maxwell to 27. So Marsh has a less complicated approach to spin. Tends to be foot down the pitch and hit it over deep mid-wicket or straight. Waits for Livingstone and just plays from the crease. Dabs it out to cover for 1. Maybe he just wants Maxwell to face the spinner. So this is the interesting part. The field for Maxwell. Short third with Archer there. Deep point. Cover and extra cover. Long off, long on. Deep mid-wicket, deep backward square. Short fine. It's Livingstone doesn't bowl to Maxwell. He fakes him out just to see if Maxwell was going to move his feet, and Maxwell didn't. He stayed still for once.
I'm guessing Maxwell's going to play a switch hit here.
Well, he always does, but this is why I'm puzzled about having the fielders up behind square. Full toss, low full toss from Livingstone, and Maxwell hits it out to deep mid-wicket. Maybe in a way that's a good delivery because it makes him go leg side instead of trying to switch it to the offside as he does so damagingly. 139 for 2. Livingstone up and bowling to Marsh and beating him, goes past the outside edge. Buttler's appealing for something. He's got the bails off, but I think Marsh was pretty well set. Well, Buttler's not interested in this at all. They're going to have a look at the stumping, and the England fielders are in desultory fashion just drifting in together. I think this is one of the things I find most annoying in modern cricket is the gathering of the team for the DRS review.
If you think they shouldn't?
If your keeper's not interested in
we
it.
have an umpire review for
Marsha,
stumping.
I thought, started walking, which was strange. He started walking towards the pavilion.
Can you show me the best side angle, please?
I think he's clearly not out. I think Marsh did drag initially.
So, I mean, it just seems like a waste of time for everybody to come in, join up in a knot, and then leave again. But
nice
if they get a
slow.
wicket, well, Butler missed on his first attempt. Or we might have him here.
Yeah,
Pull it back one more time, please.
Butler was not interested, but I think he's got
One
him.
more frame.
And he's
Yeah,
had a
now
fresh
roll forward.
area on his
Yes,
first
please be
go,
clear. I
Butler.
can
So
see
he's missed the bails
the
and then
foot
had
is
to have
short of
another
the ground
bite.
And the bails are off.
And Marsh does
I'm
not
ready
have
to
his
make
toe
my
back.
decision.
Well, now they can gather, and now the deep mid-wicket and the deep backward square leg run in belatedly to join the huddle. And Mitchell Marsh is out in very understated fashion. Nobody seems that pumped up about it for the England side. There are no high fives being thrown and hugs being dished out. But a wicket has fallen, 139 for 3. Marsh is out, stumped Butler, bowled Livingstone for 35. And Australia have 6.1 overs to go. And they've got Marcus Stoinis coming in next.
Yeah, it was a good piece of bowling this over so far by Livingston. Dot 111 wicket. He's bowled full and he's bowled straight, spearing into the toes of Glenn Maxwell, not allowing him to switch his hands round and hit it towards the offside. And then to Mitchell Marsh, dragging his length back, but still bowling it flat, knowing that Marsh either wants to rock back onto the back foot and pull him over deep mid-wicket, or stand there and try and biff him straight up towards our commentary box, which is directly behind the bowler running away from us now. So it's been a good over by Livingston, introduced into the attack in the 14th over. He has 1 for 3.
He's got 1 ball to go here. He's got off breaks and leg breaks at his disposal. Kindred spirit with Akib Ilyas of Oman, who bowled the same way the other night to great effect. Had Marcus Stoinis all at sea before Stoinis started hitting sixes off the medium paces. Couldn't lay bat on the leg spinner. So this will be an interesting matchup. Only 1 ball of it. Presumably Livingston will get another over at some point. He bowls now. It is a leg break, and Stoinis opens his shoulders and drives it with power down to Brook at long off. He'll only get a single 4 at 140 for 3. Marcus Stoinis off the mark with 1. Maxwell 28 off 24. Australia 140 for 3. They've got 6 overs to go.
So Adil Rashid's going to be introduced again into the attack. I like it. So Marcus Stoinis, not the greatest starter against leg spin. Adil Rashid, he struggles to pick, actually. I imagine we'll see a few googlies here by Rashid to try and sneak one back between the gate and hit the stumps of Stoinis, because we know how dangerous he can be against seamers towards the back end of the innings. If he gets going and manages to open those arms up, can be mighty problematic for the team bowling at him. Australia going at exactly 10 and over, 140 for 3 from 14. They're 70 for none off 5, Jeff. So they've slowed down considerably since then, which again I think shows how problematic this second innings may be for England through those middle overs.
So Stoinis with leg spin to face, potentially from both ends if Livingston continues. Adil Rashid to bowl now. 2 overs, none for 20. And he's getting a sweep shot from Stoinis for 1 out to deep mid-wicket first ball. That's what Australia will want. Let Maxwell face the leg spinner and try to improvise. It's interesting with Stoinis. He's opened the batting a bunch in T20 domestic cricket and been damaging there. He's often a slow starter in the middle order. It takes a while to get going. So coming in with 6 overs to go is almost not enough time for Stoinis. I do wonder if they might have floated David or Wade ahead of him. Rashid in, and Maxwell going back and pulling, and he's caught it deep mid-wicket. Well, David or Wade will have their chance now because Glenn Maxwell's out. It was far from his most fluent innings and far from his most destructive. 28 from 25 balls, an unusually subdued strike rate for Maxwell. He tries to get onto one here. It was Rashid fizzing it through at him. It was a leg break. He was pulling it. The length was probably there. The spin away from him drew the error. And in the end, it nestles into the hands of Phil Salt at deep mid-wicket. Australia lose another 141 for 4 with just under 6 overs to go. Stephen Finn off for a spell. Henry Moran's joining us.
England needed that, and just feels as though, bearing in mind after 5 overs, Australia 70 without loss. Goodness me, did they need something, England, to get back in this game. And actually, if you take away those first 5 overs, they've done a pretty good job. It's just the destructive nature of Australia's top order. David Warner batting against England, probably for the final time. There is talk of that Champions Trophy, but almost certainly the last time he'll bat against England.
They could meet again in the knockouts, couldn't they?
Well, they could, yeah. There is that forgive me, there is that prospect. But
might be back here,
could
the
be.
same ground, replay of 2010. Can Australia banish the ghosts of Craig Keyswetter? You know, a name that keeps all Australians up at night. Clenched fists. Ah, Keyswetter. Took that one away from the Australians.
You Australians take defeat so badly.
Here goes Rashid, and backing away from it here. Punched out towards deep cover point. Tim David gets his first run. Very strongly built hitter of the ball broad shoulders. He's got that kind of loose-limbed, menacing walk, David. Bit of swagger. Likes to throw a gold chain on. Does his fielding in the night games. No hat, gold chain. Rashid. Up to bowl outside the off stump here to Stoinis. It's a wide. That ball's turned away from Stoinis, and the umpire says it's turned too far. 143 for 4. Rashid. 1 for 23 now for him. He's into his third. Bowls to Stoinis, who swings across the line and is nowhere near that. That is the shot of a man who's not confident playing leg spin. That ball turns away from the bat, well outside the off stump, and Stoinis is trying to hit it over deep mid-wicket. Those two things don't really go together.
Bit of a panic on here, says Joss Butler, regarding Marcus Stoinis against Adil Rashid. Keep it coming is the cry.
Doesn't mind a chat, Joss Butler. Here goes Rashid, fast, and this one's not spinning as much, and Stoinis is finding cover. No run. The slowdown continues.
It's the first time since the end of the first over the run rate has dipped under 10.
Rashid throws the ball hand to hand. Comes up to Mitchell Marsh, to Stoinis rather, who sweeps and gets a big piece of that. Well, every time England think they're getting back into this game, something else clears the boundary rope, and that was a slog sweep from Stoinis. It goes behind square, and it goes into the stands again. 149 for 4. Marcus Stoinis suddenly on 8.
9 fours, 11 sixes in this game so far. It has been such a dramatic change from what we saw in the fixtures here previously. And those that are occupying that big temporary stand over to our right, well, they've been watching on as primarily the ball has been sailing towards the shorter side of the ground, the Greenwich and Haynes stand, which has taken a right peppering over the last couple of hours. And Australia have been enjoying themselves. Here comes Liam Livingstone, who has had a good start with the ball. He's bowled 1 over and taken 1 wicket for the concession of just 4 runs. He's in now. It's a leg break and it skews off the outer half of the bat of Tim David out towards deep backward point for a single. And he doesn't disguise it. It's not that sort of thing from Livingstone. It's pretty hard to bowl both of the two disciplines, and to do it as effectively as he does is a testament to a lot of hard work from Livingstone. But he stands at the end of his mark. You know what he's going to bowl, because he'll toss it in the one way that a leg spinner does, just from one hand to the other, rolling the fingers over it. And he comes in once again to Stoinis. It's a very full delivery, drilled down the ground for 1. Harry Brook, who is an increasingly lean and lithe figure. He spoke earlier this week when we chatted to him about having worked on just getting a little bit fitter and working on adding a yard or two's pace. As Livingstone is in, drilled back towards Liam Livingstone. He does a decent job of almost a goalkeeper saving with his feet. It was almost a bit of the Peter Schmeichels about that. Arms and legs spread everywhere to try and stop it in any which way. And then he manages to divert down the ground. 3 singles taken at the start of this over. Australia 152 for 4 with 3 balls left of the 16th over. Every ball of every game available for you to enjoy here on the BBC and ABC across this T20 World Cup. Livingstone bowls. Appeal for LBW is rather retracted because it hits the bat. Throw comes in. And Marcus Stoinis will run through. It was a reverse sweep attempted, and I think Butler was anticipating him missing it, and he didn't. Single taken, 153 for 4.
I enjoyed just how furious Adil Rashid was at the end of that last over. He was fuming about that poor delivery that went for 6. He was cursing himself, castigating everybody.
Livingstone again, that's onto the pads of Tim David, who wallops it down to Chris Jordan below us. There's a little bit of a hush around the ground. It's a hush that will be ended in just a moment when the brass band strikes up down there below us.
They look marvellous, those resplendent, rich, deep red uniforms. The tuba down there with some trombones.
I like the band leader, who's got a big cane as well. He's wearing a sort of military hat in bright pink. As in comes Liam Livingstone. It's got a mile up in the air, and it's got a mile back. It's going to land somewhere at our roof, I fancy. Wait for the bang above us. It goes slapping down somewhere behind this stand. It is a monster. Tim David and Marcus Stoinis meet in the middle to acknowledge one of the biggest hits we've seen in this tournament. 160 for 4, and as per the 15th over, the 16th finishes in the grand fashion.
That is unusual. We are right behind the bowler's arm here, and that ball came back towards us. It's not often in commentating cricket that you see the ball go up in the air and then you just never see it come down again. It vanished. I don't know where it ended up. They somehow got it back. Must have bounced off into one of the walkways behind this stand, but we're up on the 4th floor of a substantial building here, and it's carried the roof comfortably.
Well, Australia going at exactly 10 and over. We've seen 2 overs in this innings go for 22. That was in the power play, a power play that was about as grisly as it gets from England's perspective. And Australia looking for the big finish.
It reminds me, that 6, of the one that Livingston hit at Headingley, that same dead straight over the roof. Remarkable.
Some shot. Here comes Chris Jordan into a 3rd over from the far end of the ground. It's been skewed away into the offside. Could be 6 with one hand off the bat. It is. Amazing power from Tim David. And Chris Jordan is putting his arms out to Joss Butler, saying, well, have we got this field right? But I think you've got to hand it to the batter. That is an enormous hit.
Well, this is what Tim David is there for. Come in late in the piece and sack the bowling. Clear the ropes from few opportunities. Be as damaging as he possibly can in a short space of time. That's his specialty. That's what he's trained himself to do over years of T20 circuiteering. He's an unusual player, not nationally contracted, doesn't try to play for Australia in other formats. Just honed this skill.
Chris Jordan again. Bowling and back towards him and put down. I think that was on the full. The reaction from Chris Jordan suggests he's missed an opportunity, which is a rarity. It came back quickly. It's a dot ball. That's the good news for England, but they've missed out on the opportunity of a 5th wicket. Let's have a look at this. Yeah, on the full. Hits the tips of the fingers.
Almost rolls back onto the non-striker stumps as well, which might have been interesting with Stoinis drifting.
Field changes with Adil Rashid going down towards square leg inside the circle. England don't want to do too much of this because they're behind the rate in terms of how quickly they're bowling their overs, and they can't afford really too much chopping and changing because if they have to have an extra fielder inside the circle for the final over, it could be damaging. 166 for 4. In comes Jordan from the Ghana end. This is hit back past him by Tim David with a flat-batted snap of the wrists, and Archer will field in the distance underneath the Worrell, Weeks and Walcott stand, which is pretty much full. I can see a group of England supporters all in red. It's one of those tour groups, and in front of them, some Australian fans all in yellow. 167 for 4. They'll be the happier.
There's the difficulty of timing. The last 2 deliveries that David's really struggled to connect with. You could hear the sound in your stump microphones of the strike on that bat not being clean. David just forcing it first back at the bowler and dropped, and then back under the bowler. Compare that to the couple that he got onto. So even someone who's hitting it as well as Tim David can't time everything on this pitch.
In comes Jordan once again, past the umpire and outside the off stump, and a little dabbed edge towards Mark Wood, who dives to his left at short 3rd to pick up, but a single is taken. 168 for 4, 13 sixes in the innings, 9 fours. It has been a display of immense power in every sense from Australia, this so far.
Interesting field. They had Mark Wood very fine at short 3rd, almost a kind of fly slip. Stoinis found him perfectly.
You can hear the band down below us. And they're making very slow progress, walking below this stand, all in red. Here comes Jordan. Hit away again into the offside. Fielder waits underneath it. Catch should be taken, and it is. Liam Livingstone with the safe hands in front of the beach, in front of the swimming pool, which has England fans dancing with delight. 168 for 5, a timely wicket with the dangerous David going 11 from 8. Livingstone catches safely out there in the distance. Australia 168 for 5 with a ball left of the 17th over.
Well, Tim David doing the job that he was here to do. Try to hit every ball for 6, if not 6-4. And then downgrade your expectations after that. He's there to attack. It was a length ball, but it was the long side of the ground and into the breeze. That held it up just enough to be caught just inside the rope. So that was Jordan's tactics working, I suppose. Bowl that side of the wicket and make them hit in that direction.
And it is a longer side of the ground, and it has to be said, the one earlier in the over was a rather worrying sign for England in terms of how Tim David was seeing it, but after that the pitch seemed to help England quite a lot. Actually, he was struggling to time it, as you say, and that final one, Jordan getting his man.
A different setup to the game we saw against Scotland, where Michael Leask was hitting sixes over that side, but he was about 4 pitches further over towards that boundary. Changes the equation by about 15 metres. So Matthew Wade into the middle, and this is an interesting one. Wicket-keeper bat, who has been in and out of Australian sides for a long period of time. He'd be 36, 37 now. First played Test cricket for Australia in 2012, if my memory's right.
Here comes Chris Jordan, bowling to the left-hander, and Wade watches the ball go down the leg side. Pace taken off it, and Joss Buttler throws it back quickly, knowing time is of the essence. England have been a little loose at times in this innings. 5 wides bowled. One of them I think was a bit harsh, but
he's a diminutive, you know, in the classic wicket-keeping mould. Stocky, muscular, short, doesn't mind a chat. Very aggressive with the bat.
Wade waiting for Jordan. He pulls the ball hard into the leg side. That could be 4 runs. There's a long chase out in the deep, and the ball wins the race. Jofra Archer got there, but as he dived, he had to get absolutely everything right, and he couldn't quite stop it. And so the 17th over finishes with a boundary. Australia continue with this assault, and Stoinis and Wade will be looking to go big from the final 3. 173 for 5, 17 overs gone. Where are England going to turn here? It looks as though it's going to be Adil Rashid, with Jofra Archer still with 1 to bowl. Moeen, in theory, has got 2, but I can't see that happening. Chris Jordan, in theory, will bowl the other of the remaining 3 overs, so we're going to see 1 from Rashid, and then Archer and Jordan to close out the innings.
There are some big, rough patches around the boundary line where the grass has died off, which would be the least pleasant places to dive, and that's where Archer was. In the end, he stayed on his feet and tried to get his hands down to tap that ball back in as he ran past it, but wasn't able to do it.
So Adil Rashid, with Australia 173 for 5, with 3 overs left in the innings. Rashid is in. His attempt to reverse, nicely played, but a good tumbling save. That's really excellent fielding from Johnny Bairstow. He prevents the boundary, and it was heading that way out towards the dugouts.
So Matthew Wade with this late career opportunity to put on the Australian shirt again. He might have thought that he was done after 2019. He played in the Ashes that year. He played in the Australian summer at the end of 2019. But
he played a match-winning hand in the final of the 2021 tournament as well,
yep,
when Australia won it. And this is a matchup he'll fancy. Shorter side of the ground, playing with the turn, the left-hander, and that's why it's tossed up outside the off stump. But it matters not to Wade, who wallops it away through extra cover. 4 runs, not a great ball. That over pitch from Adil Rashid, and gets the treatment. 178 for 5.
He was a wicket keeper, and then he came back into the side as a number 6 bat when Tim Payne was keeping wicket, and eventually they lost his space with the squeeze when they wanted to get Cameron Green into that side to have the all-rounder, have someone who could bowl. It seemed to be the time when they'd moved on from Wade, but he's been able to hold his position in this 20-over format.
He's got 8 from 2. And the next ball, is that a dead ball?
Well, he wanted it to be, but he started pulling out very late, Matthew Wade. Something happened down the ground, I think. And he stepped away, but he stepped away as the ball had already left the bowler's hand. So in the end, he just blocks it away from his stumps and then asks the umpire what's happening here. And the umpire says, well, you faced the ball and you played it, so that's a delivery.
Well, he's not terribly happy, is Matthew Wade, who is, I think it's fair to say, one of the more abrasive in this side. And he blocked it back in the manner of someone who does expect it to be a dead ball and looks to the square leg umpire and then looks back up the track to Nitin Menon, who says, well, nothing doing. So it's a dot ball. 178 for 5. In comes Rashid, and he hits that one away behind square on the offside without timing. And a single will be added. 179 for 5. Listen to that band below us. There's a wonderful sound.
I think I've called that incorrectly. It's not a tuba, it's a euphonium. That's what I'm going with. Got some trumpets down there, several trumpets, a couple of trombones, some various drums, 4 different sizes and shapes of drum. But it's trumpet heavy, about 5 trumpets down there.
179 for 5. Hit away into the leg side, in the air to the right of Chris Jordan, who's pretty much the best fielder in the world at that position at long on. He runs round to his right, and while he can't take the catch, he does prevent the boundary. 2 taken, 181 for 5. The band turn right below us, right next to Matt Henry from the BBC Sport website and app, who's standing alongside and might be wishing that he had taken some ear defenders with him. 181 for 5. Final ball of the 18th over. A reverse sweep is attempted. It'll go through the gap somehow between Archer and Bairstow, and that's so sloppy from England. Adil Rashid stands with his arms outstretched. Butler takes off his helmet and looks at his 2 fielders that have had a miscommunication that's allowed 4 runs. 12 come from the over, and that is as sloppy as can be.
Well, they've got Bairstow at a backward point, Archer at a short third. I think Bairstow thought that Archer was going to dive for that, and Archer pulls out. He might have been in position, in better position to do it. I don't think he would have got there, Archer. He was a bit too far away. And Bairstow, I don't know really why he's blaming Jofra Archer for that. He was probably 6 or 7 metres away from it when the ball went past him.
Well, 185 for 5, and if he wasn't happy at the end of the previous over when he was hit for 6, he's even less so now. Adil Rashid, who finishes his 4-over spell 1 for 41, unusually expensive. Australia currently 185 for 5. I think England, we can safely say, will be chasing north of 200 here, and only twice in the history of T20 internationals on this ground has a side hit more than 200 in a first innings, let alone chasing. It is a big job for England today as Stephen Finn joins us once again. Here comes Jofra Archer from the far end, round the wicket to Matthew Wade, and Wade is edging through what would have been a second slip and down towards the boundary for 4 runs. Archer turns, looks at the ground, and England have to rue their misfortune. Australia have earned the luck though, they've played so well. 189 for 5, Stephen Finn. What do you make of the situation?
Ominous for England. Brilliant position for Australia to be into, obviously propped up by that brilliant opening partnership between Warner and Head, who really took the attack to the England bowlers early. Jofra Archer has bowled well, bowled excellently actually for his 3.1 overs.
In comes Archer and bowls to Wade, who's struck with a thud on the pads, run through for a leg by. And Archer with those figures of 3.2 overs, 1 for 26. Or 1 for 25, I should say, with the leg by signal. 190 for 5. The Australia score with 10 balls left in the innings. So ominous is where you're putting this.
Yeah, well, this looks like an absolutely mammoth score on this pitch, especially from what I've seen. There's a bit of turn there for the spinners. There's a bit of variable bounce. If you drive the ball into the surface as a spinner, the leg cutters and the off cutters from the England bowlers have held. They've just not found the right line and length, and as soon as Australia had that momentum inside the first few overs, it's been hard to stop it.
In comes Archer, sprinting towards us, over the wicket to the right-handed Stoinis, who's chasing a wide delivery, and oh no is the cry as it goes to Moeen Ali, rather tamely at extra cover. Dot ball. It feels, and again, it's easy from here and it's easy in hindsight, but the decision to bowl Will Jack's second over feels like a honking decision, given that he went for 22.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, when you sit here and say it like that, then yes, I mean, the logic was there.
In comes Archer, outside the off stump, and hit in the air, just out of the reach of the fielder, Harry Brook at mid-off, who does very well to stop it going to the ropes for 4. And a single is taken. I think Stoinis might have broken his bat. That sounded rather unpleasant off the toe end. 191 for 5.
Yeah, Archer bowling leg cutter slow balls outside the off stump to Stoinis. Intelligent again from Archer, that ability to bowl cutters both ways, so important at this stage of the innings.
Here comes Archer, round the wicket to bowl to Wade, who hits the ball aerially off the splice of the bat. It'll land safely towards the edge of the circle where no England fielder is waiting. Throw comes in, and It's Liam Livingston dashing in from the deep mid-wicket boundary. 8 from the over thus far. It's 193 for 5. 7 balls left in the innings. Well, we saw Moeen go for 3 from the part-time. Maybe he's not quite that, but he's...
He opens the bowls inside the power play for Surrey. The difference was that Moeen bowled flat and into the surface, and Will Jacks looped it up.
Here comes Archer. A reverse is attempted, and Matthew Wade ends up in a heap on the ground. He looks up at the umpire, hauls himself to his feet, and England think they've got a wicket. And yeah, there we go. The decision is made, and Matthew Wade immediately reviews it to say, well, I haven't hit that. And he's not just reviewing the decision, he's tapping the end of his bat relentlessly, as if to underline the fact he doesn't think he's hit it. It was ugly, whatever it was, and we're going to go upstairs to have a little look.
Josh Butler saying he's run him out if he's not anyway, because
TV
Wade
umpire to director. We have a player review for caught behind. The on-field decision is out. I have checked the feet. It's a fair delivery. Can you show me the front on first, please?
Well, he's still chuntering away, Matthew Wade, out there. Well, it's hit his elbow. That's why it's hit, well, not quite. It's a little higher than that. It's...
Ball is close to the arm. Can I confirm with ultras, please?
By close to the
Yes,
arm, we mean
rolling,
it's hit
keep
it.
rolling, keep rolling, keep rolling. It missed the gloves and kissed the arm. Go back to on-field umpire.
Well, they're going to check this run
you need
out.
to reverse your decision.
No, they
Stand
won't.
by, you are on screen. Please signal.
So you don't think there was a run out in there?
No, I think that was more tongue-in-cheek from Butler. I think as he was given out, Wade walked out the crease.
I see, sorry. So it wasn't when he was on the ground?
No,
it was,
no.
Okay. Right. 193 for 5. 19 overs gone. And Archer finishes with 1 for 28 from 4 overs. Comfortably the best figures from an England bowler on a day that has been run heavy thus far. Chris Jordan has bowled 3 overs so far, 1 for 36. He's got Marcus Stoinis at the far end of the ground, tapping away at a surface that looks cracked and spongy and a little unusual, and has so far in this tournament proved hard to score on, except for Australia today, who have been dominant with the bat, and England are going to have a very special time of it if they're going to get something from this game. You just sense final overs can be so important for momentum and belief. What can England do here? What can Australia do? 13 fours, 13 sixes. And there were 70 runs in the first 5 overs. 193 for 5. Here's Chris Jordan below us, as he runs into bowl to Stoinis, who's hitting the ball down the ground. Has he got enough for 6? Not quite, but it will be 4. Harry Brook ends up in a heap below us. And the problem also for England here is they have got that extra fielder inside the circle, so there is extra freedom for Australia to swing at the ball and get reward for it. 197 for 5. Down the ground, 4 runs.
Yep, Stoinis just eking outside leg stump there, giving himself room, knowing that all the fielders are up inside the circle on the offside. Chris Jordan follows him, bowls an off-cutter actually trying to follow him, but because Harry Brook is quite wide at long on, it means that it can beat him to his left-hand side, and Australia get 4 from the first delivery.
Jordan in again, 197 for 5. And he targets the leg side to Stoinis and bowling towards the hips, and he'll give nothing outside that off-stump here, Jordan, because the field being up inside the circle. A single is taken, 198 for 5.
Yeah, now they've got a problem because of the extra man inside the circle. England would love Wade to be hitting out towards the offside. The smaller boundary is towards the leg side for the left-handed Wade here. The wind is also pumping that way, so England aren't able to hedge their bets both ways because of that extra man inside the circle. So they're going to have to telegraph exactly what Chris Jordan is going to try and bowl here, which can make it a touch easier for the batter who's on strike.
Well, Jordan and Butler are deep in conversation. They've got time to do that now because the punishment has been meted out. So they're not going to bring anyone else in. But with the innings now having taken an hour and 40 minutes, heading towards 20 to 3 local time back in the UK, it's coming up to 20-8. 198 for 5, Australia. What can they do from the final 4 balls of this innings? It's Wade on strike. He's hit 3 boundaries already. Here comes Chris Jordan. It's outside the off stump, far too wide. It is signalled wide, and that'll be 1 more onto the total. 199 for 5, so England will be chasing 200 at least.
Yeah, now Chris Jordan has a short fine leg, a square leg inside the circle, but 5 yards behind square, a short third, a mid-off, an extra cover, a deep cover, a deep wide backward point, a long on and a deep mid-wicket.
Jordan again, in past the umpire. This is pulled into the onside, out towards the hands of the fielder in the deep. It's collected by Phil Salt, who'll be strapping on his pads shortly to try and get England off to a quick start. Australia 200 for 5, with 3 balls left of this innings. Moeen in conversation with Jordan. Australia supporters again waving those flags as the milestone's brought up. Over on the beach and in the swimming pool. We're not quite at the stage where we've reached the full sort of raging party, but we're not far from it out there. 200 for 5. Here's Jordan with 3 balls left of the innings. Chris Jordan bowls. It's been pumped down the ground. Could be a chance of a catch. Harry Brooks steadies himself, and it's easy as that. There's the wicket. 200 for 6. 2 balls left in the innings, and Chris Jordan's got a second.
Yep, Jordan executing his plan there. Cutter into the pitch, 129 kilometres an hour, just rolling his fingers over the delivery. It's around the midriff of Marcus Stoinis, who again was just pulling himself outside the leg stump towards the wide line down the leg side, but Chris Jordan followed him, and because the length was good and the line was good, it cramps him for room, and Stoinis can only splice it out towards the long on fielder. Harry Brooks settled himself underneath it and took a very simple chance for such a good fielder to safely pouch it, but 2 deliveries remaining. Australia have crossed the 200 mark now for the loss of 6 wickets. It's Pat Cummins coming to the crease, who's an able striker of the ball, and he's got 2 free hits here really to try and punish England even further.
He's not captain in this format, Pat Cummins, but he does have the potential of one of the marquee years in the history of any cricketer, having lifted the Test Championship a year ago, retained the Ashes, won the 50-over World Cup, and he's now in an Australia side looking to complete the cricketing Grand Slam, if you like. And for the first time in his career, he's playing cricket in the West Indies as well. Pat Cummins on strike. Right-hander, here comes Chris Jordan into bowl. It's a short delivery, which is very well bowled. Oh, mix-up, should be a run-out at the non-striker's end. Chris Jordan will run out Pat Cummins, who turns on his heel and heads back with a little bit of a mess there from Cummins and Wade. It was Wade who called it, and with the ball ballooning straight to Buttler, it was a bowled one, but 2 wickets from the 4th and 5th ball of this final over see Australia 200 for 7. So Cummins' introduction to cricket in this part of the world is a brief one.
Yeah, very brief. He's fallen on his sword there, the Test and ODI captain, Matthew Wade, making the right call and saying, let's run through for a single to try and make sure that he faces that final delivery. Pat Cummins initially thinking self-preservation and tapping his bat beyond the crease to make sure that Buttler didn't run him out. As soon as Buttler missed the stumps, he removed his bat from the crease and just jogged down the other end to watch Chris Jordan whip the bails off. Then he had to turn on his heels and walk all the way back to the other end of the ground to take his pads off and contemplate bowling and how he's going to bowl in the second innings.
Well, I mentioned momentum and what the final over can do. Either way, Australia will be the happier of the 2 sides at this stage, but this has been... First ball of this over went for 4, but actually since then, Chris Jordan and England have had a better time of it.
Yeah, no, he's executed his plan nicely. Chris Jordan getting hit to the parts of the ground that he wants to, and that's even more important because England do have the extra fielder inside the circle. And yeah, in tighter games or in games where there are less runs, momentum can mean a lot, but 200 feels like a mighty lot of runs on this surface.
So Wade to face the final ball of the innings. Stark at the non-striker's end. Here comes Jordan. It's been thrashed away towards mid-off. Harry Brooks will throw, and I think Well, potentially there's a run out, and hold on a minute. This is, I'll explain this because it's complicated. As Matthew Wade walks off, the throw has come in from Harry Brook, who was waiting at mid-off. I think Jordan knocked the stumps
TV umpire
early,
to director. We have an umpire
so the bail
review for
came
run out
off.
at the bowling end.
And then he
Can
had
you
to,
show me the best angle
with the
for
ball
this
in
one?
hand, lift out the stump to see if he can affect the run out. I'm not sure he has, but we'll check.
Well, regardless, it's only a single, isn't it? Which is the most important thing for England. Wade attempting to come back for the second.
Just keep rolling, keep rolling, keep rolling.
He's home.
Yeah, one bail is off before the ball going into the hand.
And then when they turn for the
Can
second...
you roll it further? Roll it further. Can you roll it further? And can you show me from the side on angle, please?
Oh, God, this is unnecessary. I mean, he's out there, actually. He's out when
Please show me from the side on angle, please.
I'm not sure of the laws here, to be honest. Does the stump have to be completely removed when
roll it
Jordan
back,
does it with
roll
the
it
ball in
back.
his hand?
Well, he's home for the first
All
run.
the way back.
I mean, this is completely unnecessary, this
Yeah,
one.
now roll forward. Yeah, one bail is off. Yeah, bat is grounded this time. Now roll further. You need to check it more.
Well, it's semantics, isn't it? Because
And frame by frame, please. Frame by frame. Yeah, keep rolling, keep rolling.
he's out of the
It is out
ground now.
of the ground. Yeah, keep rolling, frame by frame. Yeah, keep rolling. Foot is still out of the ground. Yeah, still in the air. Not grounded. Just keep rolling.
You asked. Good question. At what point
Yeah.
is the stump out of the ground?
Can you, take it back one more time. Can you show me the split screen for this one? Need to check
This
whether
is so
stump was
unnecessary.
uprooted or not.
Because it's just deciding whether he's out or not, and they finish, 8 down or
Yeah,
7 down, but ultimately it makes no odds.
yeah, foot is grounded
Because
and
same
stump
number of
is-
runs.
Yeah,
Well,
stump
what's
is not
what
completely
if
uprooted.
the scores are
That is
tied?
why
Wickets
I'm going
don't
to make
matter,
my
do they? It
decision.
goes to a super over,
Yeah.
So, this is completely unnecessary.
It's average. That's all that we're looking at. So here comes decision pending on the big screen, and we will find out in just a moment. Not out is the answer. So there we go. And we know that Australia finished on 201 for 7. So, Stephen Finn, your thoughts after all of that?
Well, my thoughts are that that's a fantastic first innings for Australia. The first over of that innings going for 3 by Moeen Ali to the 2 left-handers, Warner and Head, driving the ball into the surface, getting it to bounce a little bit, getting it to be a bit variable bounce as well, a bit of turn. So in the second over, rather than bowling Jofra Archer, Jos Buttler opted to bowl Will Jacks, but Will Jacks is a more loopy off-spinner. The ball comes up out of his hand rather than the flat trajectory of Moeen Ali. It meant that Travis Head took a risk first ball, played a big slog sweep, got him. Then Australia had all the momentum, and from that point onwards, even with a couple of little slower patches of scoring by Australia, it meant that they were always ahead of the game after they had those 70 runs from 5 overs.
Thank you very much indeed, Stephen Finn. So 202 will be England's target. A blitz from the first 5 overs, 70 for 1 at the end of all that. And from there, Australia just kept on going. 201 is their total. Remarkably, nobody passed 50 in all of that. Just contributions right along the way. In amongst that final over, by the way, Chris Jordan passed 100 T20 international wickets. So a little milestone for him in there. Right then, Jeff Lemon is standing by to take up commentary, and he's going to be joined by Ashes winning fast bowler Stephen Finn.
Thank you, Henry. England about to get underway. They've got Jos Buttler and Phil Salt to open the formalities, and Jos Buttler peeled off some 50-ball hundreds in the IPL. England need one of those from him today to challenge this. It's not your usual 200-run chase, as they became through that last Indian Premier League season on some pretty friendly pitches with some small boundaries. The long side of the ground here is a big hit. The pitch is not the easiest. It's playing a few tricks. There are some balls keeping low, some difficulties reading the pace, balls stopping in the surface, occasionally one that jumps through a little bit as well. So it won't just be a stand there and hit through the line kind of case. It's going to take all of the skill, all of the adaptability that Jos Buttler has shown over the years as one of the premier white ball openers in the modern era. Phil Salt out there with him, who also had a terrific IPL, scored at a massive tempo at times. Eventually was pulled out just before the end of the tournament, didn't get to play in Kolkata Knight Riders' winning side. He had to go off to England camp. But he's here now, and he'll be on strike for the first ball. And it will be, unsurprisingly, Mitchell Starc to bowl it. He's recovered from that minor cramp he had the other night, had a 60-hour plane journey over here, and went off the field against Oman with some cramp in his calf. But he's back and ready to go here, Mitchell Starc. The tall left armer coming up to the right-handed Salt and bowling full and flicked away, and it'll be 4. That's a good start for England. It goes through a long leg kind of position. The fielder they have in the deep is a deep backward square. Tim David comes around to collect the ball 4 for none.
He's on the money there though, Starc, and there's that shape back in. Salt got himself actually in a bit of a tangle trying to dig that one out, ended up hitting it between his legs like Nat Siva-Brunt used to do more frequently than maybe she does now. It was the Natmeg, wasn't it? Phil Salt has just performed the Natmeg, first ball of England's reply.
Mitchell Starc aiming at those stumps, and he is almost drawing the outside edge, just outside the off stump. The ball goes across with some pretty serious pace on it. He's into the 140 km/h range already, and Salt drives at it, misses it. They've got a slip in place too. Mitchell Marsh has positioned himself at slip, looking for that sort of edge. It's quite wide of the off stump, but Salt chased it. Starc. Ringfield. In and bowls at the stumps, and Salt flicks it. But this time he finds David at deep backward square. The ball staying along the ground, 5 without loss. So I'll change things up a little for Jos Buttler. Everybody making sure that they're in their exact positions. We have a slip, the deep third, backward point, cover point, regulation cover, mid-off, mid-on, mid-wicket. And the deep backward square leg is coming much finer for Jos Buttler. So 2 in the circle on the leg side, plus 1 back. 5 in the circle on the offside, plus 1 back, given you've got Mitchell Starc's left arm angle across the right-hander, predominantly. But if Buttler can flick anything off his legs, square of the wicket, boundaries on offer. Starc bowls outside off, and again it draws a push and a miss. Matthew Wade takes the ball behind the stumps.
Nice start by Starc. First ball swung back in. The others now have angled across the right-handed batters. Buttler just hanging his bat out there outside the off stump a little bit. But it's a strong positive start for Australia so far.
4 balls bowled. No wides as yet. That's often one of Starc's weaknesses early, is if the ball swings, it can go down the leg side. Bowls again to Buttler, who's driving the ball back to the bowler, slaps it down with his left hand in his follow-through. No run there. Moeen Ali went for only 3 from the first over of Australia's innings, and they then proceeded to add 70 by the end of the 5th over. So a further 67 in the next 24 balls. Legal deliveries, that is. England might need to engineer a way to do something similar. 1 ball to come from Mitchell Starc's opening salvo. And it's down the leg side. There is that wide that we see so often. Loses the line with the swing, back into the right-hander, and an extra to England's score. They're 6 without loss.
It was quite late swing. He's bowling very full here. Mitchell Starc trying to give it every opportunity to swing back in, trying to hit Jos Buttler on the boot, but just getting it a bit wrong down the leg side. But still threatening.
So they need a bit more than 10 and over, England. Challenging. Starc to Buttler, who's playing the ball defensively towards cover. It still ends up as a good over, even with the wide. 6 runs from it. Required rate up to 10.3, started at 10.1. So Phil Salt on 5. Butler yet to score from 3 balls. Australia made 201 for 7 earlier, largely thanks to that shock and awe opening batting partnership from Warner and Head. Put on 70 in 30 deliveries. After that, a collection of contributions through the middle from Marsh, Maxwell, Stoinis, David, Wade. All made a few. Hazelwood take up the attack from the Malcolm Marshall end here at Kensington Oval. We're in Bridgetown, Barbados. Breeze ruffling the thick green foliage. A lot of trees you can see outside the ground from our vantage point on the 4th floor. The cranes of the port over deep extra cover. And Hazelwood is coming in to bowl, and it's being driven away off a thick outside edge by Salt down to deep backward point for 1. 7 for none.
Hazelwood and his accuracy here could be a problem for England. When England got whacked for boundaries inside the first 6 overs, it was either half volleys and low full tosses or back of a length that the batters were able to get back and pull, especially off the seamers. Hazelwood, with that metronomic accuracy that he has, angling in towards the right-handed batters, can hover around the top of the stumps, and from there, for a batter to try and hit the ball for 4 or 6, they have to take a real risk.
Shifting the field around here for Butler, so they had 3 on the leg side for Salt. Mid-wicket comes out. Square leg moves to mid-wicket, and they've put in an extra fielder at a cover point, really. Got a backward point, cover point, short cover, and a mid-off, plus a slip. Stacked offside. Hazelwood outside the off stump, and Wade doesn't take it cleanly. But that only happens because Butler hasn't hit the ball. And that one looked to keep low a bit, squared up Butler, who ended up sort of crabbing, trying to lay bat on that ball just outside the off stump. That one did keep very low in the end on that replay. We saw Moeen keep one low, Archer kept one low to take the opening wicket for each of those bowlers respectively.
Yeah, and those cracks, they did look troublesome.
Hazelwood up and walking at him and cracking the ball away for 4 is Butler. That's a shot of authority. It goes through backward point, opens the face of the bat on the walk, and plays a full-blooded square drive. Impressive.
Yeah, and Butler advancing down the pitch towards Hazelwood there, forcing, I think Hazelwood wants to change the field, the deep third, to go back to a backward point kind of area. Yeah, the deep third comes up inside the circle. The square point goes out to the cover boundary, but by advancing down the pitch, Butler is trying to put Hazelwood off bowling that line and length where those cracks are and where that variable bounce is.
11 for none. Butler off the mark with that 4. Hazelwood bowling to him, full at the stumps, whips it through the leg side. Doesn't have much protection there, but doesn't time it well. So Tim David's able to stop it for the cost of 2 runs. Running back from mid-on. So they've got this completely stacked offside field with a short third and a backward point inside the circle, plus a cover point, plus a short cover, plus a mid-off, and a boundary rider out at deep backward point. And then Hazelwood bowls one in at the pads, which I'm not sure was the plan. 13 for none. Butler and Salt 6 apiece. 1 wide from Mitchell Stark. Hazelwood bowls and walking at him. Butler pulls him. This should be 4. David's in pursuit. Can't catch that one. Butler times that better. Cross-batted stroke has more power. And he lumps it away. 17 for none with Butler up to 10.
Yeah, advancing down the pitch again, Butler, a little pigeon step down towards Josh Hazelwood. It means that in his delivery stride, Hazelwood's natural reaction is to just drop that ball slightly shorter, therefore giving Butler the opportunity to play a cross-batted shot towards the onside. Pierces that gap between mid-wicket and mid-on, who are inside the circle. And it forces another field change.
It is the way they've approached Hazelwood, England's batters, is to be aggressive and to use feet. If you know someone's bowling a pretty consistent length, you can do that. And Hazelwood, there aren't many more consistent than him. Up and bowling to Butler. Fuller, and Butler's driving a run to mid-on. David comes in quickly. He's had a fair bit of work to do in this over, which comes to an end now. So 18 for none. Relatively costly one from Hazelwood. It's gone for 12. which keeps England in touch with the run rate. They need 202 to win here, England, so a further 184 from 108 balls.
It feels a long way off at the moment, doesn't it? 184 runs. Henry Moran saying earlier, only 2 times before have people scored 200 at this ground in the first innings. I presume they won both those games as well. Henry consults his laptop as if he's Andy Zaltzman, but it feels like a lot of runs on this surface. It's very dry. It's cracked. There's some sort of consultation between Pat Cummins, who's not actually the captain, and Joss Buttler and the umpire Nitin Menon there, so I'm not entirely sure what that might have been about. Mitchell Marsh just loitering around at mid-off, not getting involved in that conversation.
Is there a problem with equipment? Butler's talking to the umpire and hands him something. Might have been borrowing his scissors to...
I thought it might have been a bat gauge at one stage.
Yeah.
Nitin Menon pulled the bat gauge out on it.
Just for a second. Well, Butler did seem to be sort of showing the umpire the bat, but maybe there was a problem with the bat that he was trying to remedy. Get a little splinter off it or something. Anyway, 18 for none. Stark about to start the third over, so does Butler go after him here? Might need to. Stark in full, and it's a dot ball as Butler drives and misses outside the off stump. The ball swings back in towards the right-hander. He can't make contact.
Both those 200 scores came in the same game between the West Indies and England in 2022.
Oh, that tour, yes.
25, yeah. There's only been 200-plus scores in 25 completed T20 internationals. 224 for 5 by the West Indies. Rodman Powell scoring 107 from 53, and England replied with 204 for 9, so losing the game.
Stark. Left arm over, up to Butler, who's reaching and squeezing a ball down to deep third for 1. Butler runs the first hard. Phil Salt was running towards the striker's end and had no interest in looking to go back. 19 for none. Butler up to 12. Chasing 202 here. So 10 and over required. They just about got that. 18 off the first 2. But it might be easier at the start when the ball's newer and harder and can go the distance. After it's been whacked a few times through those middle overs, less pace to work with. That's when Australia found it a bit more difficult. Stark up to Salt, who drives him over the onside for 6. The solar panel's in danger again, but in the end it drops just short into the top tier of the Hall and Griffith stand. And that was a top tier shot, lofted on drive, that went high into the afternoon sky and eventually goes a good 20 metres past the boundary rope. Huge shot over wide long on from Salt. Beautiful timing.
Yeah, he knows almost exactly what Stark's trying to do to him here. He's trying to bowl full. He's trying to swing that ball back into him and wrap him on the pads or bowling through the gate. But Phil Salt stayed very still, waited for the ball to come to him, whipped those wrists through the ball and hit it high. The Hall and Griffith stand is a long way set back from the playing surface, but it still went to the top tier.
25 for none. Stark bowls to Salt, who's just squeezing this ball away towards short fine. Pad was involved, a little bit of inside edge, it sounded like, from behind the batter here. They get a run. The umpire says leg by, though, 26 for none. KKR teammates, of course, those two, Stark and Salt.
Not sure how many times Salt would have faced him in the nets.
Yeah.
Doesn't strike me as the sort of bowler that you'd want to face in the nets, Mitchell Stark. Unless he was doing a pre-World Cup recce and thought, I want to face him as much as possible.
Mm-hmm. That could have been
the case. I wouldn't be facing him, that's for sure.
Stark comes up to Butler, who's squeezing out another full delivery to Maxwell at backward point. Can't beat the fielder. 26 for none still the score. Salt and Butler 12 apiece.
It used to be a thing, Andy Flower, when we were when I played under Andy Flower in that era in the early 2010s. He used to get the bowlers to bat first in the nets, almost as net testers. He'd always have me, Bresnan, Broad, and someone else. But there'd always be one of the bowlers bowling unit would have to bowl against your bowling mates. It was always disgusting.
Right. Stark Long run in, bowls to Butler, who reaches for a wide ball. It's called wide by the umpire. Just outside the blue guideline. 27 for none.
So you'd have someone like Chris Tremlett, who's trying to get into the team on an Ashes tour, and I'm walking down there at the Wacker to face him in the nets, knowing that if I get clobbered in the head or something, I'm out. And
he's in.
It wasn't a pleasant experience. Not saying Trem would ever do that. He's so gentle and nice. He only ever pitched them up to me. But facing Mitchell Starc in that scenario would be disgusting.
Starc up to Butler, who slots him across the line, and it's just carried. I think it might have half volleyed the rope out at deep mid-wicket. I think it's just carried out there. It's either gone for 4 or 6. The umpire's not sure. Waiting for a replay here. And it's just half volleyed the rope by about 2 inches inside. So a 4 that could have been a 6 if the people laying out the ropes had distributed them slightly differently. 27 for none is the score. Nonetheless, it's a good result for England. 31 for none as the scoreboard ticks over, and they confirm that was 4 runs. Salt to 12, Butler to 16, and England broadly on pace. Australia were 33 for none after 3 overs. England 31 for none.
Yeah, England up with the pace here. A couple of nice shots from these two batters in that last over.
Hazelwood. Into bowl now to Salt, who's swinging across the line and can't make contact. Still, this England pair will be feeling a bit better about things. You need 10 and over. You come out, you've ticked off the first 3. And you'd love to get further ahead of that rate to buy you some time for some more difficult overs later in the innings. But still, there haven't been too many alarms out there. They haven't been clinging on, overturning decisions on DRS, anything like that. Been given a few extras. Played a few good shots. Hazelwood to Salt, who's walking at the bowler and then heaving across the line. I don't think he had much idea of what shot he wanted to play there. That ball's back of a length. Salt's trying to pull it in the end, but he was effectively playing a pull shot after the ball had passed him. And looked all at sea against that delivery. Butler comes down to have a word to him. 31 for none still.
Yeah, it's just that bit of extra bounce there from Hazelwood, kicking up out of those cracks that we've referenced a few times. You can see the bowler's foot marks getting more dusty, churning up a bit more, encroaching onto the playing area. It's very dry out there. Had a look at the pitch earlier. Didn't feel as though it would get easier to bat on as the game went on.
2 out on the leg side for Hazelwood now, who bowls just back of a length, and he's cut away for 4. That's what happens when you take your deep point out. And Salt goes in exactly that direction. That ball was on a length outside the off stump and allowed him to carve it away behind point. 35 for none. Salt up to 16. They're keeping pace with each other. Salt, Butler, 16 apiece. They were 6 each, then they were 12 each. Now they're 16 each. Hazelwood. Long run starting just outside the fielding restriction circle. Comes up to Salt, who struck on the pad. The ball bounces away to backward point. There's no appeal, there's no run.
You can see how awkward it is. As soon as Hazelwood is back of a length or on a good length straight, with the odd change of pace, the wicket's doing a lot of the work for him. The boundary there, the previous delivery was about 1.5 foot outside the off stump and giving Salt the opportunity to just throw his hands at it and beat that infield.
So 3 fielders inside the circle behind point for Phil Salt, plus a cover and a mid-off. Hazelwood bowls on that length and he cuts it away for 4. Well, you can stack them all in the circle if you want, but if he keeps finding the gap, it's not going to help. Phil Salt doing the job so far for England. He's up to 20. He's faced 11 balls. They're 39 for none in the 4th.
Yeah, with those 2 men out on the leg side, deep mid-wicket and deep backward square leg, I mean, the mid-wicket is getting brought back inside the circle now because that field hasn't worked, but it telegraphs what you're trying to do. Josh Hazelwood actually, unusually, has not nailed the skill. You need to be bowling on the leg stump if those 2 fielders are out and get Salt hacking across the line. Instead, he's offered him width and 2 easy boundaries.
Hazelwood Tries again to Salt, bowls on the pads, hits the pads. Ball ends up at at short mid-wicket with Tim David. They go through for a leg by 40 without loss after 4 overs. So what did they need? 10 and over. What have they got? 10 and over. Haven't lost a wicket. England well placed. Salt on 20, Butler on 16. A dozen balls each.
It was only a matter of time before we heard Sweet Caroline, wasn't it, really? You can see the English supporters, very rather stereotypically, swaying from side to side with their arms in the air. So good, yeah.
I suppose we shouldn't be jaded about it. You know, if you get to go to one cricket match a year, then you want to hear it and you'd enjoy it. If you're in our position and you go to a lot of cricket matches a year, it's less exciting, but
it becomes rather tiresome.
They're not playing it for us.
No, absolutely no, and everyone's having a good time, and
that's it.
And this is the biggest crowd that we've had here so far. We anticipated that this was always going to be the biggest game of this group stage here. Clearly, the India versus Pakistan game tomorrow is going to be absolutely electric in New York. We hope that the surface holds up for a game of such magnitude, but whilst here in Bridgetown, the Brits and the Aussies are creating a great atmosphere for both teams, and it's neck and neck at the moment.
It's Cummins with the ball to bowl his first delivery in the Caribbean for Australia, and his first ball is driven out to deep cover for a couple of runs. David Warner out there slides across on his left thigh to get in the way of that ball. Throw it back in, 2 more to the score. Phil Salt up to 22. Butler on 16. That India-Pakistan game I was having a little browse of the ticket sales. There are still tickets available in the premium sections.
How much are those?
$10,000 US.
Excuse me?
$10,000 US on the ICC website. Cummins up and outside the off stump. He's hacked away for 4. Well, that's a good shot in the end. He's cut it into the ground, and in the end it's saved on the boundary by a great bit of work from Warner, who makes up a lot of ground coming around. That looked like 4 all the way, but Salt had hit it on the bounce over the cover fielder, so that took some pace off it. And Warner's able to keep him to 2, 44 for none.
He's scampering out there, David Warner. He's only got little legs, going 1,000 miles an hour to make that ball there. He's a man who's playing England potentially for the last time, as though he wants to beat them this one last time and have great memories of that for the rest of his life.
Might play them again in a semi-final or
could
a final.
Potentially, yeah.
Could pan out that way.
Yeah, but that was a dive of a man who may never get the opportunity to play England again.
44 for none. Cummins up to Salt, who flicks it, but straight to Zampa at short fine. Can't beat him there. So yes, they've got all these VIP sections where you have some little, pedestal tables, and they bring you around some dodgy canapes or whatever it is. And
well, you'd hope they're not dodgy for $10,000
well,
US.
Apparently they're pretty ordinary. On the reporting that I've been getting, it's
so it's the ICC that are selling them for $10,000 US.
Yes,
then it's not on a resale site.
Nope.
Or
this is on the official website. There are some in for less than that, for a couple of thousand or 800 or something. Phil Salt plays a cut shot, misses outside the off stump. But there's something called, it's got some cheesy name like an airline point system, like Diamond Club or something like that. $10,000 US for a maybe 3-hour cricket game.
Yeah, well, it's not all that surprising that they've not sold, is it really?
Well, it's
not sure anything. Not sure any game of cricket is worth $10,000 US.
No.
Although, if you could go back in time, I feel like you could find a game from the early 1900s that you'd pay $10,000 US to watch.
If you could time travel me to the Tide Test in 1960-61 at the Gabba, so with Australia-West Indies, Joe Solomon with the run out, maybe I'd consider it. Cummins in and bowls full, and it's slashed away for 4. Opens the face a little, Salt, and steers it down through deep third. And England whisper it. They're doing this easily so far. They're up with the rate. They're 48 for none in the 5th. 1 ball to come.
Yeah, it's not sure. I mean, we spoke in the first half of the game that the Australians would learn from what worked for England, especially Jofra Archer rolling his fingers over the deliveries, bowling within the width of the stumps, making it very difficult for batters to use the pace. Australia have offered some gifts to England here, and they've accepted.
Cummins runs up to Salt, who cuts, and Maxwell at backward point dives across and fields the ball. Still, England need 202 to win. They need about 10 and over. They've got 48 off the first 5, which is, broadly speaking, 10 and over. The required rate is not much higher than it was when they started. And at 48 for none, they're well placed. Salt on 28, Butler on 16. Stephen Finn enjoying what he's watching. Henry Moran about to come in.
Very much so. We wanted a contest between these two teams, and you felt at the halfway stage as if Australia had propelled themselves to a position that would be unassailable, but the power and the skill and the confidence of this England batting lineup, Phil Salt, a very confident man, fresh off the back of being named in the ICC's T20 International Team of the Year, partnered by Jos Buttler, one of the most sought after and destructive opening batters in world international T20 cricket, at the moment are up with the pace.
They are. 48 without loss. Here comes Marcus Stoinis, medium pace into the attack, and the first ball is punched towards cover, where the ball will be fielded by Pat Cummins, and there is no run. It's worth pointing out that at this stage, Australia was 70 without loss, and that was, or 70 for one. They just lost their first wicket. I mean, it was extraordinary blitz. And the fact that England are up with the rate tells you how much they slowed down, actually, and how well England did to fight back.
Yeah, and that's going to be the challenge for England, is outside of these first six, how are they going to stay up with the rate then?
Stoinis bowling, and this is slashed away over cover. It'll be 4 runs, couple of bounces out towards a Manchester United flag that's draped over the blue barrier at the front of the Greenwich and Haynes stand. 50 up for England, 52 without loss. England need 150 from 88 balls, but they're going okay at the moment. And Jos Buttler, not timing it perfectly, but enough. And Hypercourse got in touch on X to say the reason for that little delay with Buttler earlier on, they'll take your sponsor sticker off the bat. Butler moving around in the crease, helping the ball on its way towards fine leg. He was followed by Stoinis, and in the end, had he left it alone, it would have been wide, and he would have got the ball again, but instead, looking for the boundary, he instead only finds the mulleted Adam Zampa in the shadows at the far end. 53 without loss.
Yeah, well, there are regulations, and I'd imagine there are ICC regulations about whether you're allowed back of the bat sponsors. I know there were certainly things that you got run through before big tournaments like this about what you could and couldn't do. Clearly, Jos Buttler was not allowed to have whatever he had on the back of his bat there, and umpire knitted men on, ripped it off.
Here comes Stoinis over the wicket to bowl to Salt, who just drops into the onside, looking for 2 runs, but Maxwell is so quick they won't get them. Moves quickly to his right at mid-on. Well, there's certain things that aren't allowed on bats, aren't there? Some certain sponsorships, political statements, there's all sorts of things that they're very careful about, and I know that there was a sort of flash of pink on the back of Butler's bat, and I think it's a sponsor that he's had for a long time actually on his bat.
Yep.
As that gets changed, and he has a little look around now, Butler, wielding that unquestionably supreme piece of bat craftsmanship. 54 without loss. Stoinis bowls full outside the off stump. Oh, mix up, Salt could be in trouble. Throw comes in at the non-striker's end and misses. Butler raises a hand in apology. They almost met halfway. 54 without loss.
Yeah, hairy moment for Phil Salt there as he was sent back, turn on his haunches. It seemed like it took him an age to turn there, and time stood still. Travis Head, the fielder, collecting the ball and having an almighty shy at the stumps. He missed. Thankfully, I think Salt would have been back, because once he was into his stride, he was quick, but moment of scare.
Butler waiting for Stoinis. Final ball of the power play. Edged and taken. But what's it come off? Butler isn't moving. Some Australians celebrate, and Matthew Wade, who got airborne, did really well to take it, but I think it's come off the helmet from Jos Buttler, and so that's why there's a physio being signalled who will do a quick concussion check, but it was more of a glancing blow. It was a little flick on at the near post, if you like. And though it was spectacular, it's a dot ball instead. Yeah, a little flick off the side of the head. And the over yields just 6 runs. So England 54 without loss after 6 overs, Finney. And the required rate stands at 10.57. So they're in touch, but they can't let it drop.
No, and that's going to be the real challenge. Outside of this power play now, with the fielders spread and the leg spin of Zampa, you'd imagine Maxwell will come into the fore as well at some stage. And the bowlers like Stoinis running their fingers over the ball and bowling it into the surface, challenging the batters to hit square of the wicket. How do England score boundaries? Because undoubtedly, once Australia were outside of the power play, they really struggled to find those boundaries for 10 overs or so.
Well, we've seen 8 fours and 1 6. Australia at this age were 54 for 2. England are 74 for 2, sorry. England 54 without loss. I had a message in on the social media from John from Hove early on today saying that England needed to get their discipline back before coming into bat. England's still just about in this. That was at the halfway stage. Discipline, do you think? Have we seen that? It's felt quite controlled. It's not felt sort of wild swinging.
No, both teams, I think, inside the first 6 overs, it wasn't wild swinging at all. It was controlled batting, a touch of bad bowling as well. But there was nothing streaky about it.
Here comes Mitchell Starc then to bowl his 3rd over. England 54 without loss. Phil Salt is on strike. Starc in the sunshine bowls. It's slashed away in the air. Fielder underneath it. Takes the catch. Jumps over the rope. I think he has taken it cleanly. But they are going to check this. You're saying it's 6 runs.
Yeah, easy. His foot was on the rope as he caught it. You could see
To have a look.
he was backpedaling. He could have come in and caught it reverse cup further in, but the momentum on the ball and the backpedaling of Travis Head meant that as he took the catch, he was stood on the boundary sponge, the triangular shaped boundary sponge, which is large, isn't it, as we found out yesterday.
Asif Yaqub is the TV umpire.
It's a fair delivery. Can you show me the best angle for this one, please?
Well, the fact that no Australians are celebrating tells a bit of a story. Here we go. Here's the view, and
Catch is taken, and then foot is in contact with the boundary. I'm ready to make my decision for the big screen.
And there'll be a cheer when this comes up. Decision pending, it says at the moment. Not out is the signal. And there we go, England fans like that. And it will be, as well as no wicket, 6 runs to start the over too. So England 60 without loss. It was one of those where Travis Head just got it fractionally wrong. And it's amazing it doesn't happen more often, that really. Here's Mitchell Starc into bowl to Salt, who's drilling the ball towards mid-off, and he's timed it actually poorly enough to allow quite an easy single. So 61 without loss, the England score. They're chasing 202. No side has ever chased that many at this venue in a T20. International, that is.
Yeah, they're looking in control at the moment, England. The spin is going to be the problem. As soon as Adam Zampa, so experienced in T20 cricket, gets the ball in his hands, you feel as though he's going to have a huge say.
Mitchell Starc cruising in once again. Butler, one hand off the bat, into the leg side. He's got 6. Such is the power of the England captain. Whipped away out to the Hall and Griffith stand at deep mid-wicket. Butler with 6, the second 6 of the over. England 67 without loss.
Yep, excellent from Butler, hitting with the wind there. It's interesting from Australia that they've opted to bowl Mitchell Starc here outside the power play. His 3rd over of the day. Hasn't looked all that threatening in the couple of overs that he'd bowled up to this point, and one of Australia's premier death bowlers. His ability to bowl Yorkers right at the death of the innings have won Australia many games, but bowling his 3rd over now, and he's under pressure. 13 runs from the first 3 deliveries. England, especially with the none down, they're behind Australia in terms of runs at this stage, but 67 for none is a brilliant start.
Required rate is exactly 10 and over. Here is Mitchell Starc running towards us again. Into bowl to Jos Buttler, who once more hits hard down the ground, this time for 4. Mitchell Marsh just turned on his heel as soon as it came off the bat at mid-off, knew he wasn't stopping it, and those England fans that are piled into the swimming pool over to our right are waving the 4 and 6 signs that have got a little soggy, but they're enjoying themselves. 71 without loss.
Yep, Starc not using the facilities really here. He's looking to go very full to both Salt and Butler, but it's those deliveries all day that are the ones that have disappeared. It's the cutters and the cross seamers into the surface that are hard to score from.
Here's Starc again, 71 without loss. Butler goes hard into the leg side. There's a fielder out there in the deep, though, who just moves gently to his right. It's Tim David out there in the distance. And he will pick up and throw with the score at 72 without loss. England profiting from this Mitchell-Stark over in a big way. So far, we've seen 18 runs from it, with the required rate dipping to under 10 and over. 72 without loss. Here comes Stark to conclude the 7th, running in towards us. To bowl to Phil Salt, and he chips it in the air, and it's an odd-looking shot. Come off a funny part of the bat, that as well, and I think he's perhaps missed out there because a quick flick of the hands, you expected the ball to go sailing away over the ropes, but instead he picks up a single. 73 without loss after 7 overs, and England need 129 from 78.
Yeah, these are the overs now. Adam Zampa's just marched towards the umpire and thrown him his cap. And it does mean that now England, up with the rates, they're not going to be able to knock Zampa around. They're going to have to take some degree of risk against him. These two are not risk averse either. Salt and Butler both in. Salt 37 from 22, Butler 32 from 20. So they've got their starts. They've both been out there 35 minutes, but you feel as though Adam Zampa here, Australia's premier spinner in this format of the game, is going to have the biggest say of the day in what happens here.
Adam Zampa then. Hello to Mike in St Helens who's listening. If you want to get in touch, join the conversation. tms@bbc.co.uk. Here comes Adam Zampa with his leg spin. Salt waiting and is bowled immediately. There's the breakthrough. And Phil Salt stands, turns on his heel, and has to head back to the dugout straight away. Spin does the trick. Australia get there first, 73 for 1.
Yeah, excellent delivery from Zampa, pushed through, forcing Salt to play with a cross bat. That was what was so dangerous in the first innings. Salt looking to dab that away towards short third, and it's just flicked the top of the bail. There was a minute or a second where Phil Salt felt as though it might have bounced out of the gloves of Matthew Wade and onto the stumps, but it just flicked that bail on the way through. And Australia have that breakthrough, and as expected, Adam Zampa, the leg spinner, with 94 T20 international wickets and an economy rate of 7.26, you just felt as though he was going to have a massive say in what happens in the rest of this game.
Well, Will Jacks will come to the middle, England's number 3, who has, I think it's fair to say, good potential in this position given his recent experience. He's been batting at 3 for RCB in the IPL, and he's been batting on surfaces that, yeah, they've been run heavy, but in India you'll be facing tracks that are a lot more like this than, say, if you've been playing an English summer. So he's fresh from turning tracks and facing some of the world's best spin bowling as well.
Yeah, and just confident. Confidence is such a huge factor in this game. In T20, RCB had a torrid start to the tournament. Then actually Jacks was introduced into the team, wasn't he? And the fortunes appeared to change. But he's going to have his work cut out here, because there's no time like the present to get off and running, to get off to a quick start, because that run rate does escalate very quickly at this stage with so many runs on the board.
Required rate 10.05. Zampa to the right-handed Will Jacks, who's deep in the crease. One keeps ominously low, and he whips it down the ground towards Tim David for a single. So 74 for 1. Hello to Jim in Derbyshire, who's listening from the campsite where he's based in the Derbyshire Hills, which sounds very pleasant. What time?
Sounds cold? No.
Oh, this time of year you'd be all right. 8:30 UK time. You'd probably be okay, I should think.
The hills of Derbyshire. It sounds like it's cold all year round.
Confirm, please, Jim. Zampa over the wicket to Jos Buttler, and Buttler deep in the crease watches that so carefully, drops into the offside. Zampa is a very wily operator. He's got the sunglasses on, he turns below us. He's quite a diminutive figure. Something's happening down below us. Someone's in front of the sight screen. It's a gentleman in a very bright blue t-shirt, and he's now hidden away, and he's just, I can see him, he's right below us. He's just desperate to poke his head round the corner of it and have a look at the game. In comes Adam Zampa again, past Nitin Menon, and that's onto the pads of Buttler, who's looking to try and work it into space for 2, and Matthew Wade is alive to the danger and will limit it to 1. England 75 for 1, chasing a further 127 from 74 deliveries. Here's Zampa again. Moving in and bowling a shorter ball this time that Jacks flays towards cover, and Pat Cummins will stop it. Interesting email in from Robert Jackson, posing a little bit of a question about England's batting order here. 2 from the over so far. I'll bring that in a moment. Here comes Zampa in the sunshine, bowling a full delivery, worked away to the left of mid-wicket for a single by Will Jacks. An excellent start from Adam Zampa. 76 for 1. 3 from that over. 8 overs gone. England need 126 from 72. Yeah, Robert asked a question. There've been a temptation to bring Moeen Ali in at 3. A spinner on, always having the ability for one batter to hit to the short side.
It was a question, wasn't it, coming into this tournament, how England were going to break up those right-handers through the top order. We think that's why Ben Duckett was introduced to the squad, to give England the option to be able to do that. They clearly felt that unnecessary in this game. But my thought is probably that at the moment they're thinking that Moeen Ali might be more beneficial to them, maybe slightly further down the order, to make the most of that short boundary and the win towards the latter stages of this game, especially after the start that they got and how good Will Jacks is playing at the moment. He's a confident man. He hits the ball very hard and deserves his opportunity to bat at 3, I think.
We're going to see Pat Cummins from the Joel Garner end. One great fast bowler bowling from the end named after another. Here's Cummins sprinting in towards us with Jacks on strike. He's going to punch down the ground for a single. And England move forward to 77 for 1. Jim in Derbyshire confirms it is cold.
There we go. I thought it might be.
Sat by the fire pit, still cold.
Yeah. Well, he's got a couple of marshmallows. Maybe a hot chocolate. Get the sugar levels nice and high before you go to sleep.
And how about this? Jack and Laura are listening from a train between Bologna and Florence. Tunnels aren't helping with the signal.
Sounds idyllic.
Pat Cummins into bowl to Joss Buttler, who waits and sees a ball outside the off stump. Could have left it alone. It probably would have been called a wide, but chases it, gets a single to Warner at backward point. England need 124 from 70. If you're listening in Australia, let us know what you're up to. Finney and I were chatting the other night and talking about how much we love those stories of those long road journeys across the outback and cricket for company. Let us know where you might be. tms@bbc.co.uk. Here comes Pat Cummins bowling to Jacks, who gets in a bit of a tangle looking to try and whip it away into the leg side. It strikes a bit of bat and pad at 88 miles an hour, 78 for 1 still. Midway through this 9th over, England with just 3 from the previous over and 2 from this one. They won't be panicking yet, but they won't want to see any slowing down of the excellent momentum they got at the start of this run chase. Jacks is on strike on 3 from 5. Here comes Pat Cummins in that distinctive fashion over the wicket, and it's flayed away through the offside. It just beats the dive of Travis Head and out towards the beach for 4 runs. It was not far away from the mustachioed figure who leapt to his right but couldn't stop it. 82 for 1. That's a good shot from Will Jacks. That'll do him some good.
Yep, stands tall and whacks. It's a lovely slow-mo picture. Travis Head just, if he was wearing wicket-keeping gloves, it might have nestled in the webbing there between the forefinger and the thumb. But clearly not allowed to do that. Stood at extra cover, so diving full length to his right just takes a little bit of pace off it, before it makes its way to the boundary. But nice shot by Will Jacks. He'll feel better for that. Stands tall, whacks it out the middle, 4 runs.
Here comes Cummins, and Jacks will drive down the ground. He's a powerfully built man and will pick up a single towards wide long off. 83 for 1. England are 13 runs behind where Australia were at this stage, but a wicket better off. They need 119 from 67. Jim says it's warm in Tokyo. Andrew's listening from his apartment in central Sweden. 23 degrees and sunny.
Central Sweden, nice. Enjoy Sweden as a country.
You were there earlier this year, I know. As here comes Pat Cummins. Buttler waiting and driving, pushing towards cover, but a delivery which finds the hands of the fielder quite comfortably, and so the over comes to an end with 7 from it. So just 10 from the last couple. The required rate's just below 11 at the moment. James living in Dusseldorf. Not so many cricket fans there. Les in Galicia, Spain, in the camper van. Glorious evening there. Mallorca, we've got Mike all over the place. Well, it's that time of year, it's summer holiday time, isn't it?
Yeah, and a lot of people have chosen to have their summer holiday in Barbados this year, haven't they? It's heavily populated with an English contingent of fans here, all around the ground.
Here comes Zampa. This is thrashed away through the offside by Jacks. He's only going to get one run, though, as down in the shadows. The ball's fielded by Stoinis with the England flags behind him. Adam says, listening on an exercise bike out in the dark and cold in Newcastle, the real Newcastle.
What have you done? What have you done to deserve that punishment?
I know. Here comes Zampa to bowl to Jos Buttler. Reverse attempted. Oh, it clears Matthew Wade. It's going to head down towards the boundary, pretty much straight, but will be picked up with, I assume, what will be signalled as runs or given as runs. And yeah, there was a little something on that from Buttler. 86 for 1. Marks in New York.
Very nice. I was there recently. Great city.
Big game there tomorrow. 3:15 will be
Big
live
game
on
there's
there.
unfathomably expensive, actually.
Pakistan against India. Here is Zampa. Reverse attempted. Kenny got hold of that one, but it goes straight to the hands of Cummins, waiting at backward point. He's unlucky there, is I think the skipper. Or you could say Australia got their field placement absolutely right.
Yeah, you just feel like something's going to give here. That rate's now beyond 11.05. Every delivery doesn't go for a boundary.
Buttler waiting, and he does go hard at that. In the air, down the ground, and for 6. They're scattering in the crowd below us as David Warner ran to his right. He couldn't reach up and get it. And Buttler, he hits it so firmly, it was not particularly high. It just kept on going. 92 for 1.
Yeah, he's crunched that Buttler. He's given the length by Zampa to just stand there, a small step towards the ball and hit. Not landing on any bit of rough there. It was that full. A powerful wrist of Buttler able to just whack that towards long off.
Zampa again, he tries the reverse. In the air, caught. Listen to the roars of delight. That reverse is attempted once more, and Pat Cummins barely had to move. Zampa's got both of them. England 92 for 2, and having hit 6, Buttler departs. It's a good innings, 42 from 28, but it's a big wicket. Australia just on the cusp of the halfway stage, get their man. 92 for 2, 110 needed from 61.
Yeah, you can hear a screaming Matthew Wade there as Jos Buttler hit that towards Pat Cummins, who manages to steady his feet and take a nice catch above his head, because that was travelling a little bit from the England captain's bat. You just felt as though something was going to give that over between those two. Buttler had tried the reverse sweep 2 times, had hit it straight at the fielder along the ground. This time his hands went from low to high to try and elevate it over the fielder, Pat Cummins there, but he couldn't get all of it, and Pat Cummins takes the catch, and Australia will see that as the biggest wicket so far. Or to be fair, it's the biggest wicket of the innings that they can take, because Jos Buttler is the rock and the glue that holds this entire England batting lineup together. And with him gone now, Johnny Bairstow comes to the crease.
Johnny Bairstow joins the action with England at 92 for 2, 110 needed from 61 balls. I spoke to him yesterday morning, and it's a special place for him, Barbados, he was telling me. He used to come here on family holidays with his dad, and fond memories of boat trips and times away with the family. He's got his family here with him on this trip as well. He was in good spirits yesterday morning, and he heads to the middle with a determined look on his face. Johnny Bairstow, 92 for 2. 1 ball left of the 10th over. Fascinatingly poised, this game. We've seen low-scoring thrillers. We could be in for a high-scoring one here. In comes Zampa, and the first ball is in the air, pushed just past the dive of Mitch Marsh, who was not far away from it at cover. Zampa's causing problems. He's bowled 2 overs, he's picked up 2 wickets, 2 for 13, and we're at the halfway stage. Drinks will be taken. It gives us all a chance for a breather, because goodness me, this game is proving fascinating. England need 109 from 60 balls.
Yeah, it's been high-octane stuff so far, hasn't it? Both teams maybe not quite nailing it with the ball. I think it's fair to say Zampa's bowled brilliantly in this innings, 2 for 13 from 2. It's been a bit of a game changer for Australia, because up until he was introduced into the attack, England, with Salt and Butler going gangbusters at the top of the order, were right up with the rate. But those 2 wickets have just stunted the flow. And as you know, in T20 cricket, on surfaces like this, it's not easy to just come in and stand there and whack sixes from ball 1. We saw that in the first innings with Australia. And will we see the same again here? Or can England wrestle some degree of momentum back into the game, build a partnership, put these bowlers back under pressure, and try and get themselves towards what was a very imposing total from Australia in the first innings?
Stephen Finn, grab yourself a little bit of a break. Thank you so much. Ashes winning fast bowler Stephen Finn. Hello to Felix in Nairobi, who's listening and enjoying the game. We've got listeners all over the world. Lovely to have you with us. Matt's in Vegas. How about that? We might be in Barbados. Bert says I'm in Barbados. Derby not necessarily known for its beaches. Hello to former Australia skipper Mel Jones, who's with us as part of our coverage across this tournament. We're hearing from all sorts of voices, but here's a familiar one. A friend of Test Match Special, and what a treat of a game we've got.
I certainly do. I can't believe you've mentioned Derby and Barbados in the same sentence, though. That's
well, there you go.
There you go.
Barbados. We've got
I do like it, though.
Scarbados as well in the northeast of England, Scarborough.
Wonderful. It is a cracking game, isn't it? I mean, we set ourselves every time we look at a fixture, don't we? We know that Australia and England are in the same pool. It's a matter of, right, what's the date? Let's pencil that into the diary and make sure that we've got enough time to sit down and watch the whole match. And pretty much from ball 1, you have not been able to take your eyes off it.
Right, we're going for a dual Australian team here. Jeff Lemon's going to join you, Mel, in just a moment. But I like this. An email in to tms@bbc.co.uk. Good evening all, can I get a shout out? I'm not in an exotic location like your listeners in Bologna or Tokyo, but I am Michael from Cheltenham. Well, there you go, Michael. Lovely to have you with us. Jeff Lemon, after some more thoughts from Mel Jones.
Well, for the first time on BBC this World Cup, to see Australia put on 201, I think I even got a little bit nervous, Jeff, because I thought that's just like poking the bear to England a little bit with this batting lineup, isn't it?
Well, I wondered whether it might make things easier for England, because then it's simple what you need to do. If you're chasing 145, that's when you go, oh, maybe we should rein it in. Should we do this? Should we see off Stark early, etc. 200, there's no choice. You just have to go for it.
Set yourself and go. And I thought Butler and Salt were brilliant.
Oh, so good. I mean, you know, Salt's shot, that 6 over deep third, up there with the Maxwell one. They somehow both managed to get it going in the same direction. The clean striking we've seen, I mean, almost every other game. USA-Canada's the only other one where there was a lot of clean hitting of the ball, I think, throughout the innings. But we're getting underway after the break here. And we've got Bairstow, broad-shouldered. He's driving the ball down towards long on from Marcus Stoinis, who bowled so well against Oman after batting so well the other night. 1 run added, 94 for 2.
Adam Zampa, though. Again, it's that ability to... You knew he was going to attack the stumps. He's so different to Adil Rashid, who went away from the stumps. Probably maybe a little bit nervous to that short side of the boundary. But Zampa coming in and an immediate impact has just shifted things a bit.
Stoinis got the ball back and just waiting for Will Jacks to be comfortable. Settled, ready to go. Very high back lift from Jacks. Waspish. And he plays a pull shot across the line to deep mid-wicket, only 1, 95 for 2. Yeah, it felt like when they brought Zampa on, that was the crux point of the innings. I thought they will attack him. England like attacking Zampa. They've taken him apart at times in the past. And either he's going to go for plenty in his first couple of overs, and that pretty much decides the chase, or he makes an impact. What an impact he made, 2 wickets.
Yeah, and on wickets like this, and we've spoken about it quite a bit, that cricketing smarts is so important, and cutting off the stumps for Phil Sott is not a high shot for him. We've seen the stats. He's probably better down the ground early.
Stoinis up to Bairstow, who swings and misses outside the off stump, booming off drive, no contact, 95 for 2.
And that's what I loved about Scotland the other night. I don't know if you were here for that match.
I was,
but just between Berrington and Leask, just their cricket smarts to manage that run chase. So not as big a total, yes, I get that. But in the crux of it being a T20 World Cup match that they knew that they had a really good opportunity of picking up points after the washout. I thought that was a wonderful run chase.
Picking off the faster bowlers as well, sort of using that pace of Trumpelman.
Yep.
It's been those medium pacers who dig it into the pitch who've been making trouble. Stoinis bowls back of a length and Bairstow baseballs it down to long on, and he's a bit annoyed because that's a single. And the pressure starts to rise a little bit for England, the required rate getting up to 11.5.
And this is the other tricky part about Kensington Oval too, is it's difficult to get in on, particularly if bowlers are bowling the right type of deliveries, and exactly what Stoinis is doing now, or is using that cut as he's bowling into the pitch. That off pace is so difficult.
Stoinis just shifting his field a little bit. He wants Travis Head to move 2 steps to his left. Okay, happy now? That's at a backward point. Stoinis on a length, and Jacks goes down to long off. He's caught. Marcus Stoinis, he was the golden arm in Australia's opener, and he strikes again here. 96 for 3 is Will Jacks on 10. He scored them at a runner ball. Not what England wanted to see with Jacks at 3. They wanted that dynamism, the fast striking that he displayed through the IPL, but he's 10 off 10 today, and he's holed out down the ground. A good diving catch coming forward from Mitchell Starc. Those ones always more difficult than they look.
This is a superb catch from Mitchell Starc for a guy that has quite the large frame to be able to come out of the shadows of the Warrell Weeks and Walcott stand into the sun, and it was just sort of fading away to his left as well as he had to dive forward. So he had a little bit of pace on it too. And just in terms of the moment of the match, to know that you can get that other England top order bat who can be quite the dynamic player. I was a little bit concerned about Marcus Stoinis' back because Matthew Wade leapt on him as if they just won the World Cup.
Yeah.
So.
And he has had a few injury problems.
Yes,
you want to be careful with Stoinis over the years. Anything you do could make a hamstring pop or a calf give way. So 1 ball to come in the 11th, and it's Moeen Ali coming out to bat.
So jumped ahead of Brooke.
They shifted things around a bit. Pop another left-hander, or pop one left-hander in, I suppose, rather than the 2 righties.
Yep.
Although Brooke's such a dynamic striker of the ball, I don't know if it matters which hand he bats with.
This is also true.
I think sometimes the matchup stuff is a bit overrated, where people will refuse to bowl, left-arm spinner to a left-handed bat, that sort of thing. We've seen plenty of off-spinners get right-handed batters out in history.
Well, it's the interesting one about Starc v Butler, and that's not a great record. Starc's gone around the park numerous times, but when he gets it right, he could easily clean him up. So there's that.
Yeah, do you go with the history?
Do you go with the history, or do you go with he can take out any batter?
Backing a player. Yeah. 1 ball to come in the 11th over. Stoinis up to Moeen Ali, and it's a bouncer over his head. It'll be called a wide, as it should be. That trampolined way over him, and Moeen Ali couldn't bring himself to put away the hook shot during the Ashes, but even he wouldn't have been able to reach that one. 97 for 3.
I think this is why Stoinis has been so very good over the last 10, I think it is, T20 internationals. Runs, wickets, 14 wickets in the last, make that 15 now, in the last 13 matches, and he's absolutely flying.
Stoinis. Up to Moeen. He's punching away past extra cover. It's rolling out into the gap there. Fair bit of work to do for the deep point, but he'll get around and keep them to a couple of runs. 11 overs gone. 99 for 3. It's interesting with Stoinis because he does have, in a way, he's got this underwhelming record. He's got that amazing first innings when he plays 50 over cricket, 149 not out or whatever it was, at Auckland. His T20 record until the Oman game, he had 2 half-centuries, and that was his 50th innings against Oman. So he hasn't made big scores often. He's had periods where he's scratched around and found it hard to score quickly. But I think people forget about his bowling a lot of the time. They focus on his batting returns, but his bowling can be so useful. He's deceptively hard to hit. He's got a nasty bouncer, even though you think of him as a medium pacer. He's got lift and zip. He can move it off the seam, and he can bowl those slower balls and cutters and things.
And what he's also shown for the Australian side is he can bowl in every phase. He can bowl in the power play, middle overs and death, although in these conditions here in Barbados it will be more middle overs and death.
So Glenn Maxwell's going to have a bowl. Made a score today, slow by his standards, only just above a runner ball. But he'll be feeling a little happier with a few runs behind him. He's in and bowling his off breaks, and it's nearly through. Bairstow backs away to cut. And for a second, I thought we were going to see the stump slide up. He just gets some bat down on it. Doesn't score, but saves his wicket.
Pace of delivery. This will be the interesting one here from Glenn Maxwell. We saw Will Jacks come on and bowl the second over for England and went for 22 as he gave the ball far too much air.
Oof.
So the approach here from Glenn Maxwell is about 92 kilometres an hour for that first one.
3 out on the leg side, 2 out on the off, and it's the offside that it's going as Bairstow cuts, and the deep point will keep the scoring to 1. So this slowdown continuing, that's what happened in the Australian innings too, 70 off the first 5, and then found it much harder to keep up that scoring rate.
Yeah, and it was probably one of the interesting ones with the coin toss too. I think Australia quite liked losing it, to be honest, that they knew, and we spoke to David Warder and he said, look, we thought we'd face spin straight up and then potentially a couple of overs, so they sort of had that mindset. There was only 3 runs hit off that first over before they actually then said, right, okay, let's go.
Time to hit some dingers. Well, yeah, a little more possible when the ball is tossed up. So they're quite different off-spinners, Moeen and Jacks. Maxwell around the wickets to the left-handed Moeen Ali, who can't score. Drives it to cover. Mitchell Marsh, the captain, gets down and stops the ball. It's 100 for 3, but they're in the 12th. The required rate up to 12 now. Maxwell, and forcing it away off the back foot, only for a single to long on, Moeen. He goes up to 3 from 3. Bairstow 4 from 6. England 101 needed from 50 balls.
Just keeping an eye on Mitch Marsh too. Just, I mean, he commands space anyways, doesn't he? Just his sheer frame of the man, but just the way in which he's managing things here.
Maxwell up to Bairstow, who's looking for a boundary, trying to cut. He just cuts to Mitch Marsh at cover. It's interesting. Mitchell Marsh isn't the biggest player ever to play cricket, but he looks like the biggest player, especially when Cameron Green's not there. Combination of the X and Y axis. He goes up and he goes across. Bairstow backing away, can only jam down on the ball as it skids through towards his off stump, and that is an outstanding over of spin from Glenn Maxwell. He's conceded just 2 singles when England need 12 and over. And now the pressure's really climbing. 101 for 3. They need a further 101 from 48 balls. They've got to double their score in 8 overs.
So much of the talk coming into this T20 World Cup from the Australian side was about Glenn Maxwell's form with the bat. But if he keeps bowling overs like that, people will be sort of putting that aside a little bit and just saying how pivotal he is with the ball. And of course now Mitch Marsh has the opportunity of backing that up now, pulling Zampa back into the attack from the opposite end.
It's interesting, even through Maxwell's dire IPL with the bat, he was still bowling well, so it didn't blow his confidence out. He was still playing
golf well too, I heard.
He will tell you all about it, unfortunately, shot by shot, if you're willing to listen. But Zampa, he's bowling from the far end, striking Moeen on the pad, appealing. Umpire's not interested, but Zampa decides he's just going to go back to the top of his mark. But it is interesting, a lot of players, if one of their disciplines goes, the other one falls apart as well. I just found it interesting that he was able to hold it together with the ball, even struggling with the bat. Zampa to Moeen, who drives and can't beat cover. He gets across towards mid-off almost. They have a long off back. And then a squarer cover fielder set. So a couple more dot balls. England becalmed here. Zampa to Moeen, who forces backward a point and has to take the risk of the single. Marsh says, OK, I won't ping at the stumps. You're welcome to have that 1. That's not what you need.
Yeah, and I think this is where Adam Zampa, you just check the ego here. He's just going to go stump to stump. He's not going to try and bowl that miraculous ego ball or anything along those lines, because I think he's feeling a little bit of frustration from Jimmy Bairstow from the previous over, and even Johnny.
Even Johnny?
Yeah.
Yep.
Where Jimmy
Anderson. So you're thinking of his retirement.
Thinking ahead, aren't I?
You know how much talking will have to be done about Jimmy Anderson as he farewells Test cricket after that incredible career. Bairstow, big sweep, and the ball goes approximately 2 metres. It hits him in the pad and rolls away towards the offside. So another dot. 1 run from the last 4 balls of Zampa's over after 2 runs from the previous over from Maxwell. The required rate in that time was ballooned out to 13.6. It was 12 even 10 balls ago. Bairstow, big swing, inside edge, down towards fine leg. Won't reach the boundary. They don't get that 4 that they crave. Stoinis tracks back and throws it in. And Bairstow goes up by a couple, 104 for 3, but he's 6 off 10. Moeen 4 off 6.
Now this is the tricky part here for Johnny Bairstow. I'll pause and get that right. Is last ball here. They need runs, but you just see this one off from Zampa. Just reset yourself.
Zampa to Bairstow. Huge sweep. And again, the ball does absolutely nothing because it hits Bairstow on the pad, heading down the leg side, and rolls away. So another dot, a single and a 2 from the over. 5 runs from the last 2 overs. England now need 14 and over. 98 from 42 balls, 7 overs to go. Bairstow and Moeen in the middle. They are the kind of players who could score that many from that many in the right conditions, but it's an uphill task from here.
Yeah, it certainly is. And I mean, there'll be debates going on too about whether or not it should have been Harry Brook that comes in his normal position. Moeen Ali, the lefty, to try and open up that short side, which he's hitting to now.
Maxwell bowling to Moeen, who does get onto one. He puts it over the leg side for 6, and a sigh of relief, a gasp of oxygen into the lungs of this England innings. 110 for 3 as Moeen goes up to 10. A little bit short, and he was able to go back and pull.
It's always that first ball, isn't it? You want to try and get in and out of your over. Glenn Maxwell certainly didn't give it too much oxygen at all, but got into a wonderful position.
Maxwell round the wicket to Moeen, who goes again. That's going the distance too, over long on this time. And suddenly he's flicked the switch. And Maxwell was suffocating them. But now things have changed around. 116 for 3, Moeen up to 16.
It is amazing how quickly things can turn, isn't it? Here we have Glenn Maxwell, who tied them down in his first over, and they struggled so much just to get bat on ball. And now within 2 deliveries, they got 2 sixes, and Matthew Wade making the long trek up to have a chat.
Well, they've played so much together, Victoria State cricket, all those years back. Maxwell's scintillating List A debut, for instance. He's bowling wide outside the off stump, and Moeen can't reach it. Tries to play through the covers, and it is inside the wide line, but couldn't lay bat on it. There's a dot for Maxwell. So with Wade, somebody he's very comfortable with. Moeen tries to hit across the line, bottom edge. Goes out to deep backward square leg for 1. 117 for 3.
And now the adjustment needs to be made by Maxwell again, with the right-handed Bairstow coming on to strike. Bairstow, if he looks to go big to the onside, is hitting into that decent breeze.
Back over the wicket, the right armour, Maxwell with his off spin. Bairstow sweeps out to deep backward square for 1. 118 for 3. So they needed 14 and over, England. They've got 14 off this one with 1 ball to go. They need to punish this last delivery to try to bring that required rate down a little. Moeen, the man most likely. 2 sixes in the over already. Waits for Maxwell, and he's gone again. There's a 3rd 6. He's picked it up over deep backward square leg. And that was the most stylish shot of the lot. A wristy flick as he picks the ball up from leg stump. And Maxwell will be steaming. He's never happy when things go wrong on the cricket field. He's quite an emotive character. And after 14 overs, England 124 for 3. They need 78 from 36. More of the same required.
Yeah, and he should be livid with himself too, because it was pace on for that last delivery, angling it into the pads of the left-handed Moeen Ali, who was looking to set himself large to the short side boundary. We've spoken a bit at this ground about getting it underneath 90 miles an hour and taking pace off. Adil Rashid did it beautifully well the other day against Oman. Yes, it was against Oman, wasn't it, where he got hit for the first over and then slowed it up brilliantly for the next.
So Josh Hazlewood will come on to bowl. He's switched ends too, so he's at the Joel Garner end now. Was at the Malcolm Marshall end earlier. He's coming in, the tall right armour, to bowl to Bairstow, who tees off over the leg side. It's in the air. He could be caught. He's gone. Bairstow falls. He's out for 7. Never got going. He's faced 13 deliveries in so doing, and a 4th wicket goes down. And another hole in England's innings. 4 for 124. That's Maxwell who takes the catch out in the deep.
It's a wonderful delivery from Hazelwood straight up. It was the cutter into the wicket. And it was just a matter of how Glenn Maxwell was going to take the catch. On his feet, fingers up. It was fingers down. He ended up rolling onto his back and then turned immediately to the strong English crowd, I think, behind him, and just blew them a kiss.
Yeah, always a little bit of byplay when you're down there on the boundary in front of the St George's crosses, all decorated with the names of various football clubs. And
it's a brave player, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because you've got to go back there.
You do.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking of, it was Mark Richardson, wasn't it, when he caught Shane Warne at the whacker and turned around and gave them the big bow. But yeah, it does take a little bravery. David Warner turning his pockets inside out at Edgbaston.
Yes.
There've been a few over the years.
All similar personalities of players, do you think? Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not sure how similar Mark Richardson and David Warner are. But I suppose anybody, when roused, can become a little bit fuller of energy than you might otherwise be. So Harry Brook is in at number 6. He is England's prodigy. He's produced some outrageous innings, but they need one from him across the next 35 deliveries. That's all he's got. That's all England have to try to get this win, which would make their passage through this group stage a lot less nervous.
Well, his build-up's been predominantly on red ball cricket. He's been hitting the ball beautifully for Yorkshire.
Yeah, made a first-class 100 off about 60 balls the other day. He's facing his first here from Hazelwood, and he's just pushing it down the ground for one, as though this was a first-class fixture in Leeds in early May. 125 for 4.
I had the pre-match interview with Harry Brook for the TV broadcast, and we were chatting about his time with the St Louis Cardinals and about how what he picked up from having a hit with the big hitters over in the baseball league that he's still sort of bringing into his game. He said, "Oh, look, a lot of it was about the power aspect of how to really ensure that your body's in alignment and summation of forces, all those sorts of things." But I think I look at him now and just the amount of work he's also put into his fitness over the last 12 months is quite noticeable.
Yeah, he's definitely one of the leanest, quickest across the ground. 125 for 4. Moeen Ali, he's up to 23, is waiting for Hazelwood, and he's pulling, but not with any timing. Out to deep mid-wicket for 1. 126 for 4. England 76 more needed, 33 balls to go.
And having done a few hundred games, the amount of times you sort of see the Northern Superchargers in a little bit of strife and Harry Brook still at the crease, and everyone stays because everyone knows there's the opportunity of him dragging things back.
Yep, we saw him in that Headingley Test match as well, that run chase when England were wobbling. There's a...
Oh, you were not talking about that though, Jeff.
That's all right. Yeah. It's all part of the rich tapestry. It's what makes things memorable. Hazelwood, right arm over. He's up and pushing outside the off stump is Brook. That was a good delivery. A little bit of seam movement away from the right-hander. You don't expect to see much of that on a surface like this, but Hazelwood, it was almost a scrambled seam and it decked back in slightly in the end. Brook was reaching outside the line of it.
We've spoken so much about the difficulty of batting on this pitch here at Barbados, but the other one are the keepers, and I think the keepers have actually been superb. I thought Matthew Cross was brilliant the other day. Butler, when Adil Rashid was actually starting to get sort of, it wasn't bouncing a lot in turn the other day against Scotland. Matthew Wade has worn a few today, but kept it in front of him.
This odd field, short fine leg, a short third, almost 2 short thirds more than a backward point. Travis Head is quite far around, and then Mitchell Stark's quite fine, and Brook tries to scoop the ball with that field up, and he misses. So the dot ball's mounting. This match looks to be drifting from England. 76 from 31. They could produce a huge over, then it might change things. Get 25 or 30 off and over from somewhere, but easier said than done. Especially against the older ball. Moeen on 24, Brook facing on 1. Waits for Hazelwood and tries to cut and misses outside the off stump. A dot ball, a brilliant over from Josh Hazelwood. Conceded 2 runs, took the wicket. England have 5 overs left. They need 76. It is the steepest of uphill tasks. I'm going to leave you with Mel Jones And to take you through to see if they can do it, Henry Moran.
Tough wicket at this stage of the game, isn't it? Just the 2 runs and the wicket from that last Hazelwood over. And now it's crunch time here for England. It's going to be even tougher for them because Mitch Marsh is going to turn to his Test captain and Pat Cummins to bowl the next from the Malcolm Marshall end.
Indeed. Mel, we're parting such sweet sorrow, so brief. But you're off. You're going to go.
I come on and you leave me.
I know.
It's okay.
So there'll be plenty.
I'll see you over the summer. How's that?
Yes, there'll be plenty of time to catch up. Thank you very
Brilliant.
much.
Thank you so
Mel
much.
Jones. Stephen Finn is going to come and join us for the conclusion of this game. Let me take this opportunity to point you in the direction of the Test Match Special podcast, by the way, which will be bringing reaction from this game. And as we go through the tournament, you will not miss a story, a detail, and right throughout the summer and across the year as well. The TMS podcast on BBC Sounds. The likes of No Balls there as well, with Kate Cross and Alex Hartley. Best way of following the game we all love. Can England find a way of winning from here? It is such a task. 15.2 required per over, 76 needed from 30 balls. Moeen on strike as Pat Cummins comes round the wicket, and he hits that with a little plink towards cover, and Mitch Marsh will drop down and stop it. And this feels like it's drifting away, Stephen Finn.
Yep, yes it does. Yeah, we knew that it was going to be a tough task when they got set those 202 runs after Australia's first innings, that explosive start from Australia, and the pitch has played almost exactly as I thought it might as this day's gone on.
Cummins running around the wicket, Moeen moving around in the crease. He's flayed that out towards the deep. It'll drop just short of David Warner at deep cover. Moeen moves on to 25. He's at 3 sixes off Glenn Maxwell in an over. That gave England hope, but 75 from 28. It's the sort of equation we saw a few times being tackled in a successful chase in the IPL recently, but different surfaces. And bearing in mind that England have struggled to get going, apart from that opening partnership, which was superb, 73 runs between Buttler and Salt. It's felt like Australia have always just been able to hold England at arm's length. Here comes Pat Cummins to bowl to Harry Brook, who hits that away firmly in front of square on the offside, but again, just the one run. His boots appear to be made of a rather heavy grade of cement today, Harry Brook. He's not felt like he's moving particularly cleanly at the crease. And, Moeen and he have a real job on their hands as Pat Cummins stands below us, waiting to bowl the third or fourth ball of this 16th over, with England needing 74 from 27. Cummins again with this long approach from the edge of the circle, runs into bowl to Moeen, who swings at that. It's gone away into the offside. Fielder running round, steadies himself, takes the catch. It's David Warner, and Moeen goes with England now 128 for 5. The target of 202 feels a long way away. 74 needed from 26. Moeen departs. Caught Warner, bowled Cummins for 25.
Yeah, he thought for a second that Moeen had got enough of that to get it up over that boundary, but it is the biggest boundary, and he's hit that straight into the wind, blowing across the ground from east to west through the gap between the party stand and the hospitality boxes to our right here, and it just held up nicely for David Warner to settle underneath it and take a pretty comfortable catch in the end. Reverse cup in front of his face. It was good bowling from Cummins. Moeen was just walking across the crease, trying to access that leg side and whip it out there. Cummins going wider and wider outside the off stump, and Moeen had to give in and try and hit 6 over the offside because of the required rate now being 17.08 runs per over. And he couldn't get enough of that to get over even the smallest of men in the outfield, David Warner.
So Liam Livingstone, 30 years old now, approaching 31, comes to the middle with a big opportunity here. If he could do something special, he's got the power, he's got the talent, we know that, but he's, in some ways, he feels like a theoretical cricketer in the sense that you know he can do it, but he seldom does.
Yeah, well, he's got best of 103 in this format, 42 games. He's not going to have the opportunity to score 100 here, but he's going to have to play probably his best innings in an England shirt if he is to get England over the line. Chris Jordan to come next. And then we really are into the bowlers. So there's no time like the present, but the hard thing that we've seen all day outside of those first 5 overs in both innings is walking to the crease and hitting boundaries right from the very off has been very tricky.
England needs 17 and over. Livingston waits for Pat Cummins, and the ball goes down the leg side with the pace taken off it. Livingston just happy to see that go through to Matthew Wade. 129 for 5. England needs 73 from 26. As an Australian fan in a Hawaiian shirt waves around a pink plastic cricket bat and his Australian flag. And looks very happy indeed in amongst some England fans below us. Cummins turns, runs in rather pigeon-toed in past the umpire, and it's defended. It's absolutely on the money. Livingston can do nothing with it, and Cummins at 90 miles an hour, bowling line and length, top of off stump. And in amongst the variations, there is still very much a place for the classic skills.
Well, and the pitch is doing a lot of the work for you here. It makes your job as a bowler very simple. You just hone in on that top of the stump's length with the odd change of pace. Makes it very hard for batters just to hit.
Here's Cummins, swinging into the leg side, but there is a fielder out there at deep backwards square leg. It's David Warner in front of the party stand. It's 130 for 5, just 4 from the over. England needs 72 in 24 balls. It is now or never. They're 30 runs behind where Australia were at this stage. And we're not far away from England turning their attention towards the game between Scotland and Oman tomorrow in Antigua, which could have quite the say on England's path towards the Super 8s if they can get there, because if Scotland win that game, they'll be on to 5 points. The most that England could get if they do go on to lose this match would also be 5 points, and then we're into net run rate territory. So that is why we're focusing with a fair degree of enthusiasm, albeit a degree of nervousness from an England perspective on that game. For Scotland, what an opportunity. They've been sensational in this tournament so far. And really looking forward to seeing how they progress for the rest of the group. 72 needed from 24 balls for England here. 130 for 5. In comes Josh Hazlewood from the far end. This has been slapped down the ground by Liam Livingstone for 1. Decent sound off the bat, but he can only get a single to long off. 71 needed from 23. Joss Butler shown on the big screen with a rather thoughtful look on his face. We'll get reaction from the England camp after this game, regardless of the outcome. You'll hear it in the Test Match Special podcast. 131 for 5. Harry Brook is on strike. 2 from 5 so far for him. Pulls into the onside with no timing at all. And he won't get a second run either, because out there in the deep, some good work from Glenn Maxwell. And as you've said all along, Finney, it's a hard surface to get going on.
Yeah, those new balls did fly around from both teams, actually. In the end, both opening partnerships being the most punchy of both innings, but that foundation that Australia laid inside those first 5 overs of 70 propelled them to a point where it looked inevitable they'd be in this position now.
70 needed from 22 balls as Livingstone again drives crisply down the ground, but another single is all it'll be. England dealing purely in binary at the moment. 133 for 5 midway through the 17th over. The required rate is just shy of 20 and over, so if it happens, it's going to be spectacular. At the moment though, Australia hold all of the cards. Good news for our listeners on the ABC. 69 needed from 21 as Hazlewood from the Ghana end runs into bowl. This is thrashed away by Brook into space to the left of the fielder at deep backward point. They'll turn for a second run, and they'll get that run as well because Warner's throw is not a terrific one. And he raises his hands in apology. 135 for 5. 67 needed from 20.
Just thrashing round a bit here, England. Desperate for boundaries, clearly. With every ball that doesn't go for 1, the rate is escalating at a rate of knots. 20.10 now. 3.2 overs to go.
Here's Hazlewood. Pounding in again past umpire Wilson. And Brook is in position, flicking the ball very fine down towards the boundary below us, but a fielder will get there. It's Cummins out there on the ropes. And in the shadows made by the Greenwich and Haynes stand, he does well to limit it to just 1-3-6 for 5.
Yeah, in front of a lot of England supporters down there, and he didn't receive all that much applause for his effort. With some rather glum faces. At least they're in the shade there. The people in the party stand have received an absolute battering from the sun all day. They'll be going home a touch sunburnt for their troubles.
Hazelwood once more. Final ball of his spell has been swung at and missed by Liam Livingstone, who's looking up towards the umpire and hoping that it might be signalled wide. It isn't. 6 from the over. England require 66 from 18 balls, and Hazelwood finishes with really good figures there. Outstanding effort. 4 overs, 1 for 28. And at the moment, Scotland topping this group. Australia look like making it 2 wins from 2, and in doing so would leap forward onto 4 points. So it would be Australia, then Scotland, then Namibia and England, with Namibia a point ahead of England, and with Oman bottom of the group on 0 points. So Adam Zampa down below us with 1 over left. He's been brilliant, 2 for 16 so far. You know it's hot out there because he's in the short sleeves. A short third and quite close to him, backward point as well as forward advancing is Harry Brook. He can do nothing but bumped it down the ground towards the hulking figure of Stoinis below us. 1-3-7 for 5. England needs 65 from 17. It looks like it's going to be a hefty defeat here in England's first completed match in this tournament. Here comes Zampa. Hit away firmly again by Livingstone, out towards the deep. Stoinis will field once more. England can't find boundaries.
It was the introduction of Zampa, wasn't it, that changed the momentum in this innings for England. He was held back until the 7th over. Stark bowled the 6, went around the park a bit, and then Zampa immediately from below us, the 7th.
Zampa bowling with a little bit of flight, and again Stoinis called into action. This time it's Brook who will trot through for a run. 25.2 the required rate. I think we know where this one's going. 63 needed from 15 balls.
Yeah, from 7 overs, England had 73 for none, and then Zampa bowled an over, got the wicket of Salt, and only went for 3 runs, and that stemmed a real stodgy period of play for England.
Zampa bowling. It's been hit back down the ground. This could be 6. I think it's going to be. Tim David watches it sail over the head, and Liam Livingstone has launched a big 6 down the ground to move the requirement for England to 57 from 14. That's a good shot. He's taken his helmet off, not to celebrate the 6, but such is the heat out there, he mops his brow, and England need plenty more where that came from.
Yeah, googly from Zampa, so Livingstone, I think, spotted it, took a skip down the pitch towards the pitch of the ball, and with the spin into him, hit it up over mid-on. I'm not sure he got all of it. It's a powerful man. I think it hit low on the bat still, but he got the elevation to lift it all the way up over Tim David's head, and I think he's got it lost in amongst the sight screen there, so the umpires have pulled out another ball. It's a few more pounds down for the ICC today. It's about £300 worth of cricket balls they've lost today for themselves, the ICC.
At least that one got some use. It was the ones in the power play in Australia's innings that felt like they were lost before the end of their natural service life.
Well, yeah, that is the case. And also the solar panels on top of every stand. So every stand here has heaps and heaps of solar panels on top of it. And there's a few smashed ones on top of the Greenwich and Haynes stand.
57 needed from 14. Here is Zampa, and that's gone right through everything. It'll beat Wade, it'll head down towards the boundary, but it's not going to reach it, as Hazelwood, with 3 or 4 long strides, will pick up. England require 55 from 13. Everything must go. Livingstone is there, 12 from 8. Here comes Adam Zampa over the wicket. It's tossed up, thrashed out towards deep cover for a single. And there ends a really exceptional spell of bowling from Adam Zampa. 2 for 28 from 4 overs. And England are 148 for 5 in pursuit of 202. They need 54 runs from the last 2 overs. It has been done, just not terribly often. And at this stage, it feels like its net run rate damage limitation.
Yeah, it's a lot of runs, isn't it, to need in the last 2 overs, 54. And yeah, the only thing on their mind, well, that clearly these two down there will be thinking and believing that they can win it, but deep down I think everyone in this stadium knows that it's nigh on impossible for them to do so. We've seen no such free-flowing scoring outside the first 5 overs of both innings. Australia have bowled intelligently. I think they actually did themselves a favour losing the toss. Mitchell Marsh wanted to bowl first, which surprised me why both captains wanted to bowl first, given what I was looking at when I went down and looked at the surface earlier. And it's played just as we thought it might. Slower as the game's gone on, harder to score.
In comes Pat Cummins from the far end of the ground, 148 for 5, outside the off stump, chased by Livingston. He'll only get 1 as Warner scampers in from the boundary edge. And the requirement, 53 from 11. So England looking at a pretty big defeat here.
Yeah, and I'm not sure the permutations, my mind is not intelligent enough to understand what this means in terms of how bad the net run rate will be, but a loss this big in T20 cricket has to hamper you.
In comes Cummins, bowling to Brook, who again doesn't time it. He's annoyed with himself because it's just not happened in this innings. He shouts at the ground while running through for a single that moves his score to 9 from 11. England 52 needed from 10 balls. We will be hearing from Joss Butler on the Test Match Special podcast that you'll be able to find on BBC Sounds. We'll be getting his reaction at the end of this game. 150 up for England, 150 for 5. Cummins is sprinting in to bowl to Livingston. He gets a very full delivery right on the toes, out towards Travis Head at deep square leg. Runs in from the shadows. Sunglasses glinting in the afternoon sunshine. 151 for 5. England need 51 from 9 balls. And we're not going to be at the point where there needs to be a rip it up and start again. You lose games of cricket against good teams, of course you do. Here comes Pat Cummins again. Bowling to Brook, who's edging. Oh, brilliant catch put down. It was the smallest man on the field who leapt high, Adam Zampa, and he had it for a second at short third. Smiles all round from the Australians who know this job's pretty much done. They can afford a laugh and a joke when a catch is put down when they're in this position. And Adam Zampa, well, if it had been anyone else, it would have been quite straightforward. But Zampa, he leapt high, but he couldn't quite hang on with his right hand.
He was leaping high there, a la Ben Stokes at the Oval, wasn't it, in the World Cup in 2019, up over his head, one-handed, reaching like a goalkeeper.
Here's Cummins into bowl. 50 needed from 8 balls. It's hit down the ground. It's going to go straight to the hands of the fielder at long off. Mitchell Stark with the easiest of catches. And Liam Livingstone goes. 15 from 12 for him. England getting 4 singles and then a wicket falls in the over. And it tells quite a story as the scoreboard over to our right says 152 for 6. That since the end of the 14th over, there has been just 1 boundary.
Yeah, and we said that it was going to get trickier. These surfaces, you can see how chewed up the surface is now. Down there, we're right behind the bowler's arm here. And you can just see how dusty. You can see the cracks in the middle of the pitch, and you just anticipated that unless you were unbelievably lucky or someone played absolutely out of their skin, it was going to be really hard to up the scoring rate towards the back end of both innings, and that's exactly how it's played.
So England currently 50 short of their target from 7 balls. That doesn't go. And Cummins has figures of 2 for 23 alongside Hazelwood and Zampa on a relatively high-scoring day in this tournament to have had 3 bowlers bowling their allocation and all of them going for under 30 runs across the 4 overs. Is a special effort, really. Hazelwood, Cummins,
what is it? Is it a special effort, or is it just what is this pitch is conducive to those kinds of figures, I think?
Yeah, maybe. Here comes Pat Cummins to bowl to Chris Jordan, who swings violently at a slower ball, which goes bobbling through to the keeper. Dot ball to finish a good over from Pat Cummins, 152 for 6. He finishes with 4 overs, 2 for 23. And so in that case, we're saying, well, England got it horribly wrong?
Yeah, I mean, clearly they have. Clearly those first 5 overs, opened the door to Australia not having to take risks through those middle overs, and that, I think, is the reason why Australia ended up getting to 200, is because through those middle overs they could knock it around. They didn't have to take ridiculous risks against Adil Rashid, who was clearly going to be England's most threatening bowler. They ended up taking him for 41 because they could capitalise at the back end of his spell when they'd set that platform. But yeah, certainly the way that England started with the ball and gave Australia the opportunity to put their hammer down in those first 5 overs led to England being so far behind the 8 ball that it looked almost inevitable that after those 5 overs England would find themselves here in this position.
Marcus Stoinis will bowl the final over. England need 50 from it. As we see Harry Brook on 10 from 12, waiting, right-handed. And that is well bowled, is it? Oh, I thought that was inside the tram lines. No, says the umpire. And wide is signalled. 153 for 6. What would be your first question to Joss Buttler?
In hindsight, would you have batted first? I think I was surprised that both captains wanted to bowl first. And yeah, I thought that the toss was going to have a huge impact in the game. We'd been saying it in the build-up, hadn't we, in our podcast yesterday, if anyone listened to it. Felt as though the toss was going to be important.
In comes Stoinis, and Brook plays a lovely lofted extra cover drive, and it's a 1-bounce 4. We've seen that shot before from Harry Brook, and he's nailed that. That's a really good looking shot. 45 needed from 5 balls isn't going to happen, but that will give him some confidence.
Yeah, it's a lovely, elegant shot, isn't it? That is his first boundary, 14 from 13 deliveries now, so he's been thrashing around trying to find the middle of the bat, and that's the first time he has.
Stoinis turns below us. 5 balls left in this game. As Brook again targets the offside, this time a gentle plink towards cover. As Marsh moves to his left. 158 for 6. England need 44 from 4 balls. And they are facing a big defeat here, and the net run rate implications and everything else, the permutations we will be exploring in the Test Match Special podcast you'll be able to download later on this evening. And we will have that reaction from Joss Buttler as well, to get his thoughts on where things haven't gone right for England today, and they haven't. And then we'll also be looking ahead to Scotland's game with Oman. What a chance for Scotland. 44 needed from 4. Here's Stoinis, walloped away into the leg side by Chris Jordan, but without timing, Maxwell crouches down to field. And the score creeps forward, 159 for 6. That funny part of a game of cricket where everyone knows the outcome and it's all sort of going through the motions, but it could be that a couple of boundaries is vital actually come the net run rate calculations at the end of all of this. Stoinis runs in once more, past umpire Menon, pace taken off the ball, pulled into the onside, nicely struck, but Maxwell again doesn't have far to go to pick up. 160 for 6. Lots of England fans here will be left frustrated. England's record against Australia of late in T20s has been excellent. They've won 7 out of the last 8.
Not today.
Here comes Stoinis. 2 balls left in the game, 160 for 6. As the ball strikes the body of Chris Jordan, he'll run through for a leg by. And England score 161 for 6. Yeah, not today. And it's the Australian fans that are dancing in the stands in all manner of retro shirts from the 90s, the 2000s, and suddenly Joss Buttler's face is shown on the big screen again, and he looks a concerned man, Stephen Finn.
Yeah, well, it's been a bad outing, hasn't it? I think right from when the coin toss has gone up, England haven't got too much right.
Stoinis running in to conclude this game. It's outside the off stump, and an outside edge for 4. Well, England finished with a boundary, but Australia finished with the points. They've won this game by 36 runs, convincing. And on the ground where these sides met in a World Cup final 14 years ago, it is Australia who at the moment are making stately progress towards the Super 8s, and England, if Scotland are to beat Oman tomorrow, will be looking at net run rate calculations if they're to progress to the next stage of this competition. It has not gone their way today, and there are questions, and some pretty significant ones for this England side.
Yeah, lots of questions, I think, to answer here. They're not out of the tournament. I think this was built up as an imperative game for England to win, and it was if they wanted to cruise through to the next stage. It just leaves them hoping that Oman can beat Scotland tomorrow to make their progression to the next stage a little bit easier, but certainly the way that they've played today, they're going to have to sharpen up again if they're going to convincingly beat Oman in their next game. I think their next game is against Oman. But yeah, I think right from the very beginning, Moeen Ali bowled a good first over, and then the power play and the power of Head and Warner really got away from England. And Australia, we know that they're always going to compete. We know that they're intelligent cricketers. That bowling unit would have been watching the first innings and just calculating what they needed to do in order to restrict England in that second half. And inadvertently and accidentally, I think Australia ended up doing exactly what was necessary on this pitch to win. And again, they just look as though they're going to be there or thereabouts at the end of the tournament, Australia.
Yeah, word on Australia, because brilliant first 5 overs, 70 runs, won them the game really, but also they bowled with discipline as well.
Yeah, and clearly those first 5 overs just set the game up, and it meant that they didn't have to take risks. Too many risks through the middle overs, even when they were getting tied down a bit by the spin of Adil Rashid and Liam Livingstone. They didn't have to take any undue risks in order to propel themselves towards that imposing target that they ended up. Only the third time in T20 internationals on this ground that 200 has been passed. The previous 2 were in the same game between England and the West Indies in 2022. So at the halfway stage, you knew that Australia were going to be odds-on favourites, but England had a good start. Butler and Salt, they went at 10 and over throughout the power play. They got to 70-odd. And then the most crucial interjection in the second half of the game was performed by Adam Zampa, who got rid of Salt. He bowled an over of 3 in the 7th over, and right from that very moment, England looked as though they had little to no hope of winning the game.